Hello, welcome to the Fanfic Majesty. 5BSFLBAG. Chapter 81. Do you want to learn Kaido? 3/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. You are Luyun, right? I've wanted to meet you for a long time. Yunohana Retsu took the initiative to throw a kind smile at Luyun. She has an outstanding temperament, gentle and elegant, and will bring people a unique sense of intimacy invisibly. Want to know me for a long time? Luyun was taken aback, feeling very surprised. To be reasonable, apart from meeting Yunohana Retsu once at the conference, the two had almost no interaction, not even a conversation. Why did Yunohana Retsu suddenly want to know him? Luyun was confused and couldn't think of a reason. Is it because I performed too well at the conference? Luyun frowned slightly. He thought about it but gave up the idea. If this is the reason, then Yunohana Retsu would have come to the door when he arrived at the Baidaemon, but Luyun did not find her in the crowd that day. Or, because of Captain Zaraki. Luyun looked hesitantly. He turned around and stared at Zaraki Kenpachi lying on the bed, with many doubts in his heart. For some reason, he always felt that there might be some special connection between Yunohana Retsu and Zaraki Sword 9078. That's right. Don't forget that you are the most outstanding talent that Soul Society has ever seen, so I naturally want to know you. Yunohana Retsu smiled beautifully. It's a great honor. I've known you for a long time, Captain Yunohana Retsu. Luyun bowed slightly and said modestly and politely. Whether in terms of appearance or temperament, Yunohana Retsu is perfect, almost impeccable. Being able to be valued by such a perfect woman is a pleasing thing in itself, and naturally Luyun will not reject this secret. What's more, after becoming a member of Gote 13, it is always a good thing to have an extra staff. Advertisement. On the side, Madarame Makaku asked, Captain Yunohana Retsu, are you here to heal Captain Zaraki under the order of Captain Yamamoto? That's right. Yunohana Retsu nodded and said, I heard that Zaraki Kenpachi was seriously injured in the duel with Luyun, so I came here to heal it. But, what happened to make him look like this? In Yunohana Retsu's vision, Zaraki Kenpachi lay dying on the bed, bloody all over. His dark skin was covered with layers of blood scabs. It looks horrible as if it's not human. She turned around and stared at Luyun solemnly, as if waiting for an answer. This, stared at by Yunohana Retsu, Luyun lowered his head in embarrassment, and said, Zaraki Kenpachi was seriously injured because of a slash I made when I was a little serious. What? Although he was prepared in his heart, Yunohana Retsu's pupils contracted suddenly when he heard it with his own ears, and he was still very shocked. Just a little seriousness can bring Zaraki Kenpachi to the brink of death. Then if it is taken very seriously, how terrifying will Luyun's chopping be? Yunohana Retsu was shocked and couldn't imagine. Advertisement. Although this statement is exaggerated, unexpectedly, she did not doubt what Luyun said. However, Yunohana Retsu thinks so, but her adjutant doesn't think so. A little serious. Kotetsu Azane didn't change his face on the surface, but secretly sneered with disdain. I'm afraid he said that deliberately in order to steal the limelight in front of the captain, right? That's Zaraki Kenpachi, one of the most powerful Shinigami in Gote 13, who would be killed by him knocked down by a slightly serious slash. Don't be kidding. Kotetsu Azane's impression of Luyun was more on his performance at the conference, although Luyun's performance was amazing, able to suppress many seats. But she didn't think Luyun had the strength to challenge Zaraki Kenpachi. If Kotetsu Azane knew that Luyun slashed Zaraki Kenpachi mercilessly for fear of killing Zaraki Kenpachi by mistake, he would be completely stunned. In fact, Luyun didn't even use 1% of his strength. On the other side, Yunohana Retsu came to the edge of the bed. She looked at the injury on Zaraki Kenpachi, frowned, and said solemnly, such a serious injury, in other people's words. I'm afraid he's dying. That is to say, Zaraki Kenpachi's special physique can resist it. Quote. At the end, she said in a deep voice, Luyun, you've hit hard. That, I have already shown mercy. Luyun shrugged helplessly, expressing his innocence. Even a slash with 1% power is considered too heavy, he really has no choice. This feeling of being misunderstood is really uncomfortable. After all, his power has already broken through the sky, and it is not easy to perfectly control his own power. Advertisement. Yunohana Retsu seemed to see Luyun's embarrassment, waved her jade hand, and a touching smile appeared on her beautiful face again. But it's okay, under the healing of my Kaido, Zaraki Kenpachi's injury should heal soon. Kaido? Luyun asked in surprise. You just joined Gote 13, so you probably don't know much about Kaido. Yunohana Retsu explained patiently. Kaido is a kind of Kido, and its effect is healing. The difference from Bakudo and Hado is that not all dead Shendu know Kaido, and only the 4th team members are good at Kaido. Although the other team members have a few people can use Kaido, but they are not very grandmaster, it is a medical method after all. I see. No wonder I don't know Kaido. Lu Yun nodded, having a general understanding of Kaido. Indeed, as a special medical method, only the members of the 4th squad will go to special practice. And when he was still practicing at Junyang Lingyuan Academy, his mentor never even mentioned information about Kaido. As one can imagine, this is a kind of unpopular Kido hate. It seems that my understanding of Shinigami is not thorough enough. Lu Yun's eyes flickered, and he murmured in a low voice. At this moment, Unohana Retsu placed both hands on Zaraki Kenpachi's wound, and green fluorescence emerged from the palm, constantly moisturizing the wound. Afterwards, Unohana Retsu turned sideways, and when she found Lu Yun staring intently at the fluorescent light, she asked with interest, Lu Yun, you seem to be very interested in Kaido. That's right. Lu Yun nodded irrefutably. If you want, I think I can teach you myself. Unohana Retsu showed a charming smile at Lu Yun, and asked softly, would you like to learn from Kaido? Advertisement. Chapter 82 Katetsu Azane expresses envy. 4/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Do you want to learn Kaido? If you want, I can teach you personally. Unohana Retsu smiled kindly and invited Lu Yun in front of everyone. What? After hearing this sentence, Madarame Makaku and Ayasagawa bowed their hands, and the expressions of the two changed, and they were extremely shocked. Captain Unohana Retsu actually wants to teach Lu Yun Kaido himself. Oh my god, isn't that true? The two looked at each other, and they both looked at each other in dismay. As veteran players who have been in Jingling Ting for decades, the two of them are very aware of Unohana Retsu's position in Gote 13. As one of the few hundred-year-old captains, Unohana Retsu has a high status and is respected by countless people. Although she is the captain of the 4th Division, she teaches Kaido to the 4th Division members in line with the captain's duty. Although this kind of large-scale teaching has a certain effect, it cannot really reach a person. And since 100 years ago, looking at the entire Soul Society, there is no one who can let Unohana Retsu teach Kaido hand in hand. Therefore, it is a shock that Madarame Makaku and Ayasagawa personally. Compared with the two of them, Katetsu Azane has a dull expression, a blank mind, and is completely messed up. Why? A newcomer who has never met before, how can Captain Unohana Retsu willingly teach Kaido? Katetsu Azane kept murmuring in a low voice, extremely shocked in his heart, obviously did not accept this fact. As the vice captain of the 4th Division, she has followed Unohana Retsu for decades. But even so, she failed to make Unohana Retsu willingly teach her Kaido, and it was more of a convenient teaching when she was trained as a future captain. Advertisement. Before coming to the 11th team, Unohana Retsu didn't even have any intersection with Lu Yun, and the two were almost strangers. Just a one-sided relationship has changed the bottom line of the past few decades. Who the hell is Lu Yun? Damn it. This guy. Katetsu Azane gritted his teeth fiercely, aggrieved like a child who lost his mother's love. Following Unohana Retsu for so many years, she has long regarded Unohana Retsu as a dependent relative, and even regarded herself as her future successor. However, the appearance of Lu Yun not only stole the limelight in front of Unohana Retsu, but also easily achieved what she had longed for decades. This huge contrast made Katetsu Azane's mood plummet. Why? Is it because he is a genius who comes out once in 100 years? Che Yongyan bit his lower lip, lowered his head unwillingly, and a burning fire of jealousy ignited in his heart. It's a pity that Unohana Retsu didn't notice her changes from the beginning until now, and her eyes always stayed on Lu Yun. She smiled kindly and said, although Kaido is not a must-have skill for every dead Shendu. But it can produce unexpected effects at critical moments. If you want, I can teach you personally. Unohana Retsu stared at Lu Yun intently, expecting his response. In fact, she did not want to teach Lu Yun Kaido on a whim, but after careful consideration. Advertisement. On the one hand, Lu Yun himself has extraordinary talent, a peerless talent that comes out of the Soul Society once in a century. As long as he puts his heart into it, mastering Kaido is not difficult. On the other hand, Unohana Retsu sees himself in Lu Yun. Back then, she was the most vicious villain in the Soul Society, her hands were covered with blood, and she once took countless lives. Only by following Captain Yamamoto can this viciousness be restrained. Later, with the help of Kilin Temple Tianshiro, a member of Team Zero, Unohana Retsu cultivated his mind and nature, and learned the superb Kaido technique. Then he resigned from Team 11 and became the captain of Team 4, truly abandoning evil Kongliang. He saw similarities in Lu Yun. Extremely powerful power, but unable to control this power as one likes, often causing injuries to partners around him. It is precisely because of this that Unohana Retsu wants to teach Lu Yun Kaido from the bottom of his heart. Study Kido. Lu Yun's eyes flickered, and he looked at Unohana Retsu calmly. From the other party's beautiful eyes, he felt a trace of genuine care, which poured into his heart like a warm current. Zero looking for flowers. So, Lu Yun nodded happily, and responded, I am very honored to be favored by Captain Unohana Retsu. To be honest, I also really want to learn Kaido. After all, it is also one of the important skills of Shinigami. But, Luyun turned around, looked at Madarame Makaku and Ayasagawa in embarrassment, and said hesitantly, my current identity is the 4th seat of the 11th team, and you are the captain of the 4th team. According to the regulations of the Soul Society, without the approval of the original team captain, I have no right to practice with other captains. Advertisement. Luyun was confused. He wanted to follow Unohana Retsu to learn Kaido, but he was afraid of breaking the rules of the Soul Society, which would cause dissatisfaction among the members of the 11th team. Point 0. After all, it is the behavior of cross-fan teams, which will inevitably cause some gaps. You don't have to worry about that. A touching smile appeared on Unohana Retsu's beautiful face, and she said understandingly, you are right, there is indeed a rule in the Soul Society, which clearly stipulates that members of Gote 13 are not allowed to cross teams practices to avoid chaos. But, the 4th team is a special team as a medical team. It is mainly responsible for the first aid of the wounded, medical treatment and daily cleaning tasks of Seraite. Therefore, it is closely related to the major teams and is inseparable. What's more, practicing Kaido is an act of icing on the cake, and it will not bring any gap between the two teams. Unohana Retsu looked at Madarame Makaku and Ayasagawa and asked kindly, what's more, it's a good thing that Luyun can master Kaido, I don't think you will object, right? No, it is a great thing to be able to master Kaido, and of course we will not object. Madarame Makaku nodded quickly. Ayasagawa echoed, Captain Unohana Retsu, I think even the larger captain would be very happy to see Luyun practice Taoism with you. Really? That would be great. Unohana Retsu smiled slightly, and said softly to Luyun, in order for you to master Kaido as soon as possible, then the practice starts tonight. Advertisement. 40%. Chapter 83. Night. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. At night, the night is shrouded, and the stars are hanging high in the hazy night sky. Every night, the bustling jingling court will become extraordinarily quiet. In the spacious aisle, there are no more people coming and going, and everyone stays in their respective teams behind closed doors. The same goes for the 4th division. As a special logistics team, the team building of the 4th team has a beautiful environment. In addition to the ordinary buildings, there is also a comprehensive treatment center to treat the personnel of other teams. After a tiring day, most of the team members fell asleep early. However, the team affairs room in the center of the team building is still brightly lit with 320. The 4th team, the team doctor's house. Although the doors and windows were closed, the howling of the cold wind could still be heard outside the window. The team affairs room was brightly lit, clean and tidy, and there was a kind of fragrance permeating the air. In the center of the room, Luyun sat cross-legged, and Unohana Retsu sat facing him. Advertisement. Luyun, from today onwards I will personally teach you the Kaido technique, I hope you can master it as soon as possible. Unohana Retsu took the initiative to speak, and said, I think you are also very clear, as one of the important combat skills of Shinigami, Bakudo and Hado have a stricter level system, and the requirements for Reiatsu are also very strict, and they can be easily mastered only by virtue of talent. However, Kaido is different. Unohana Retsu explained inwardly, because there are very few people who have mastered Kaido in the Soul Society over the years, Kaido has not been widely spread in Gote 13, so the threshold for practicing Kaido is not high, which is why I insist on personally to teach you. Unohana Retsu continued. Actually, I have known about your deeds for a long time. It is said that when you first joined the Shinigami Academy, you have already shown extremely powerful talents in Hado and Bakudo. According to your performance at the conference, and it is true. As one of the Kido systems, the principle of Kaido art is similar, and its essence is the transformation of Reiatsu. Unohana Retsu said earnestly. Reiatsu's conversion. Luyun fixed his eyes and asked in surprise. That's right, the essence of Hado is to use Kido to attack. By agglomerating Reiatsu, it turns into a powerful move. Bakudo is the process of turning Reiatsu into a means of banning. It's just that Kaido is different from the two of them. You don't need a high concentration of condensed Reiatsu, just a stable Reiatsu. Advertisement. Then what should I do? Although hearing Unohana Retsu's patient explanation, Luyun was still at a loss. When fighting the enemy in the past, he often killed the opponent with one punch, never leaving any chance to heal, so naturally he is not very grandmaster in this respect. First, try to control the Reiatsu in your body and gather them in the palm of your hand. Unohana Retsu solemnly exhorted. Because when performing Kaido, the best way is to heal the wound closely. Therefore, it is the most fundamental condition to gather Reiatsu in the palm of your hand. It's that simple, Luyun said lightly. Immediately afterwards, with a thought in his mind, the huge Reiatsu buried in his body flowed rapidly, and finally condensed in his palm like a torrent. In an instant, Luyun's palms radiated bright blue fluorescence, illuminating the entire room in an instant. The blue light is shining, bright and moving. The whole room seemed to be shrouded in a misty blue ocean. This Reiatsu is really scary. After feeling the oncoming Reiatsu, Unohana Retsu was startled and instinctively exclaimed. Advertisement. The Reiatsu emanating from Luyun's hands gave her an extremely unique feeling. It is the same as ordinary Reiatsu, but it seems to be integrated with another kind of power. Especially that kind of thick feeling, as if condensed into substance, it is amazing. There is no doubt that this is a terrifying Reiatsu that rivals the captain-level Shinigami. And this level of Reiatsu will appear on a newcomer Shinigami. It has to be said that it is an incredible problem. It seems that I still underestimated your potential. Unohana Retsu shook her head mockingly. Until this moment she finally understood why Ichimaru Jin was suppressed, and Zaraki Kenpachi was knocked down again. Because, with this terrifying Reiatsu alone, Luyun will not be afraid of anyone. 3.9 It's a pity, no matter what, Unohana Retsu would never have imagined that this huge Reiatsu is only 1% of the power in Luyun's body, that's all. If it wasn't for Luyun's deliberate restraint, once all the Reiatsu in his body were released, that coercion alone would have caused countless Shinigami to fall to the ground. He doesn't want to hurt innocent people. Okay, let's let you experience how Reiatsu transforms first. Before Luyun could react, Unohana Retsu made an unexpected movement. Advertisement. 40%. Chapter 84 Soul Space, 6/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Accidentally took advantage of it. Luyun expressed his innocence, although he had forced himself to concentrate, but when he felt the softness of Unohana Retsu's fingertips, Luyun was still distracted. Ever since, there was an embarrassing scene. Luyun came back to his senses, suddenly withdrew his hands, and smiled apologetically. It's just that when he came to his senses, he happened to meet Unohana Retsu's eyes. Luyun and Unohana Retsu's eyes met, because the distance between them was too close. Even if he wanted to dodge Unohana Retsu's gaze, it was too late. But when Luyun stared carefully at the beautiful face in front of him, he suddenly realized, Unohana Retsu is really beautiful. Unohana Retsu has exquisite and perfect facial features. Those big clear and transparent eyes contained agility and charm, and there was a sense of heroism between the brows, and the high bridge of the nose was even more enviable. In addition, the white and tender skin is even more rosy, like suet jade, which makes people love it. Whether it is appearance or temperament, Unohana Retsu is perfect. The most attractive thing is the gentle smile that always fills the corner of her mouth. Just like the afternoon sun warms the heart, making people feel comfortable physically and mentally. Unohana Retsu just sat there, but formed a pleasing picture. No matter who sees this scene, they can't help but be intoxicated by the gentleness and cannot extricate themselves. Compared to Rukia and Matsumoto Rangaku, Unohana Retsu is more attractive. Luyun, what's the matter with you? Unohana Retsu smiled and said softly, seeing Luyun lost his voice. At this time, Luyun suddenly came back to his senses, and he responded awkwardly. I'm sorry, Captain Unohana Retsu, I didn't mean it just now, it's just that the Reiatsu coming from me is so special that I lost for a while. Advertisement. It's okay. Unohana Retsu raised his eyebrows and smiled, and said dignifiedly and generously, being able to experience that feeling, you must have a certain understanding of Kaido, right? That's right, I seem to have realized something. Luyun stretched out his hands, and with a thought, the Reiatsu in his body flowed quickly. The next moment, a dark green fluorescence appeared on the surface of his palm, calm and gentle, as if with a healing ability. Luyun actually succeeded. It's an amazing talent. Unohana Retsu was still surprised even though she was prepared in her heart. A strange light flashed in the depths of her pupils, and she sighed with relief. Thank you Captain Unohana Retsu for your teaching. Luyun stood up and said sincerely. It's nothing, being able to comprehend Kaido so quickly depends entirely on your own talent. From now on, you follow me to practice the middle way every day. Unohana Retsu said. I see. Looking at the hazy night outside the window, Luyun hurriedly said in order to ease the embarrassment caused by shaking hands. It's getting late, I'll go back to the 11th squad first. Go. Unohana Retsu nodded in agreement, and did not continue to persuade her to stay. It's just that when Luyun left the room, a strange light flashed in her beautiful eyes, as if she was touched. In the early morning of the next day, the morning sun rose slowly, and the dazzling sunlight shone on the earth, casting a layer of afterglow on the surface of everything. Advertisement. At this rare and quiet moment, Luyun did not attend the regular team meeting, but sat alone in the center of the team building. He placed the sealed state on top of his legs with full anticipation, and put his hands flat on the knife. The slender and white blade is cold to the touch, conveying an indescribable feeling. This moment is divine. After all, for every Shinigami, the sealed state is just a prototype, not the real Zanpakuto. A Zanpakuto cannot be the only Zanpakuto unless it is imbued with its own spirit and belief by its owner. As long as you have a sealed state, you can inject your own soul. With the accumulation of time, the power of the soul will continue to increase, until one day you can call out the name of Zanpakuto, which means that Zanpakuto is truly awakened. I don't know what kind of ability the awakened Zanpo has. Lu Yun rarely had a serious expression on his face. At this moment, his heart was heavy, as if he had returned to the state of mind when he was still a weak person. Fire Zanpakuto, Ice Zanpakuto, Water Zanpakuto, Pure Physics Zanpakuto. What kind of power the awakened Zanpakuto has, even Lu Yun himself doesn't know. During the battle with Zaraki Kenpachi a day ago, perhaps because Zaraki Kenpachi has similarities with him, I felt a special resonance. Zanpakuto of the Zaraki people is in Yuan. Because they don't believe in Zanpakuto's power, they only use Zanpakuto as an ordinary sharp weapon to fight, which invisibly makes each other's strength wear away, so that Zanpakuto cannot display the true strength of Zanpakuto. This feeling is familiar, because Lu Yun is doing the same thing. While owning Reiatsu, Master Kido. But when fighting the enemy, Lu Yun didn't deliberately use Kido, and even the seemingly incomprehensible Shunpo was his original power. Because of this, he was slow to awaken Zanpakuto. Advertisement. On the one hand, it is because the power of Zanpakuto is suppressed, and on the other hand, it is because Lugo did not engrave Chapter 010 at all to awaken Zanpakuto. Actually, he doesn't need to. However, over time, although everything seemed perfect, Lu Yun always felt that something was missing. What's more, whenever he holds the sealed state to fight, he even feels a sense of resistance from the sealed state. This made Lu Yun realize that he underestimated the seriousness of the matter. Anyway, let's do knife meditation first and try to enter the soul space of Zanpakuto. Lu Yun smiled bitterly, suppressing the complicated thoughts in his heart. With a thought in his mind, an indescribable terror erupted like a volcano, sweeping across the surroundings. By the end, the entire room was enveloped in an extremely massive Reiatsu. Under Lu Yun's control, all Reiatsu condensed into a blue beam pouring into the sealed state. Call out. When the Reiatsu beam completely disappeared, the surface of the sealed state flashed a light blue luster. At this time, Lu Yun closed his eyes tightly, pouring the Reiatsu in his body into the sealed state continuously. With the infusion of Reiatsu, there seems to be an unknown resonance. This feeling is very mysterious, as if entering another spiritual space. The moment he opened his eyes, he suddenly found himself in another mysterious space. That is the soul space of Zanpakuto. Advertisement. Chapter 85 Meteorite from the Sky 1/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The moment Lu Yun opened his eyes, he suddenly found himself in another mysterious space. That is the soul space of Zanpakuto. Lu Yun opened his eyes in confusion, and what came into view was the blue sky. Looking up, the scorching sun hangs high, the sky is cloudless, and the warm sunshine pours down on the earth. However, what surprised Lu Yun was that when he looked around, he suddenly found that there were no familiar buildings around him. Here is. Looking around, there are towering high-rise buildings all around. The original quaint Rukongai disappeared, replaced by a bustling city. There are no more 320 blocks, no more Rukongai residents, and no Jing Ling Ting. Everything has changed. This place seems to be a world that is both strange and familiar, but Lu Yun in it seems out of place. Did I go back again? Lu Yun frowned. Thoughts surged, and long-lost memories once again surfaced in his mind. Before crossing over to the Soul Society, he was originally an ordinary person with the power of One Punch Man. Compared with the quaint Soul Society, the world he lives in is the same as the present world, with not only high-rise buildings, but also a large population and prosperity. And the first feeling that Zanpakuto space brings to Lu Yun is familiarity. Everything around seems familiar, but there is a sense of strangeness. Why did I come here? Could this be my true thoughts? Lu Yun frowned and kept looking around. He was surprised to find that there was no one on the empty street. There was no sound, no figure, no bird or beast. Advertisement. It was as if he was the only one in the whole world. Naturally, a sense of loneliness enveloped his heart. Lu Yun seems to have gone back to the past, with innocent companions all day long, no companions, no family ties, and alone. A.J. Lu Yun's eyes were fixed, and his figure disappeared instantly, and when he reappeared, he had already appeared on another street. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he searched, there was no trace of anyone. In the endless city, there was no sound other than his own footsteps. He seemed to be abandoned by the whole world once again. Why did this happen? Didn't I get rid of loneliness this year? Why did I go back to the original point? Lu Yun was full of doubts. Although this feeling is too real, he still maintains his rationality and keeps telling himself in his heart everything is false, this is just the soul of Zanpakuto. However, No matter how firm your heart is, if you immerse yourself in this lonely and hopeless atmosphere for a long time, you will eventually lose yourself. Lu Yun looked dignified. The only thing to be thankful for was that he was still holding the sealed state in his hand. This shows that the experience of this year is real and not just a dream. With a thought in his mind, the majestic Reiatsu burst out of his body, sweeping around like a storm. Under Lu Yun's control, Reiatsu turned into trickles, pouring into every corner of the city. Before long, Reiatsu was on every street. Unfortunately, the result is still disappointing. No matter how Lu Yun sensed it, he still couldn't detect anyone's breath. The city seemed like an empty city, desolate and uninhabited. Advertisement. The atmosphere is dignified, and there is a desperate silence in the air. At this time, Lu Yun couldn't help recalling what teacher Shinigami had said in his mind. To be able to call out the name of Zanpakuto one day means that Zanpakuto has truly awakened. The only way to get Zanpakuto is to break it and let him say his name himself. Beat him personally, Lu Yun murmured in a low voice. He suddenly realized something, and his eyes burst out with a flash of light. Since the condition for awakening Shikai is to enter the soul space of Zanpakuto and defeat him personally. That also means the soul of Zanpakuto is hidden somewhere in this city. Otherwise, Lu Yun would have no chance to defeat him, let alone awaken Shikai. This is not an empty city. However, here comes the problem. How to find out the spirit of Zanpakuto hidden in the city? Lu Yun expressed helplessness. Just now, he had used his whole body Reiatsu to search almost the whole city, not even sparing any corner. Even so, it is still impossible to find out where Zanpakuto's soul is. Could it be that the soul of Zanpakuto is able to evade Reiatsu's induction? Lu Yun was startled. As far as he knew, even Captain Yamamoto, known as the strongest Shinigami in the millennium, could not avoid Reiatsu's induction, so why did his own Zanpakuto soul have this ability? Could it be that? Advertisement. Thinking of this, Lu Yun's heart sank. In his impression, there is only one way to avoid Reiatsu's induction, and that is not having Reiatsu himself, let alone relying on Reiatsu to fight. This is very similar to myself. Maybe my Zanpakuto soul also has the power of One Punch Man. Thinking of this, Lu Yun vaguely had the answer in his heart, and he already guessed what he was about to face. A monster with the power of One Punch Man. Only by defeating him can Zanpakuto be truly awakened. Just when he was lost in thought, suddenly there was a loud noise in the blue sky. Bang. The deafening bang was as shocking as the roar of thunder. The moment the sound came out, the clouds in the sky disappeared, and even the blue sky gradually changed color. The sky was blushing one after another until it finally turned into a dark red that made people despair. The sky fluctuated violently, the earth shook suddenly, everything seemed to be the end of the world. What's going on? Lu Yun stared at the sky in doubt, with a strong sense of crisis emerging in his heart. Not long after, he saw a scene that took him by surprise. Boom. I saw that the entire sky was covered, and a huge shadow slowly descended from the clouds. Not only that, just the destructive momentum alone makes people despair. Meteorites. Advertisement. Chapter 86 The Weird 2/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Lu Yun looked up and saw a scene of astonishment. Sure enough, not long after, a piercing roar broke the silence. Boom. I saw that the entire sky was covered, and a huge shadow slowly descended from the clouds. Not only that, just the destructive momentum alone makes people despair. Meteorites. What's going on here? Even though Lu Yun was always calm in his heart, he was still extremely shocked when he saw the meteorite that almost occupied the entire sky. Although the entire meteorite is just a huge shadow and does not reveal its true appearance, but according to Lu Yun's estimation, its volume can almost cover the entire city. In other words, once this falling star falls, it will destroy the entire city in an instant. This is an almost unstoppable disaster. In the sky, a huge meteorite crashed down from the sky. Over time, it gradually revealed its entire face. This is a huge meteorite that cannot be described by the naked eye. Its surface is rugged, and it even ignited raging flames. It is as unstoppable as a natural disaster. 440 Is this the reincarnation of fate? Lu Yun's eyes flickered, and he murmured in a low voice. When he came to the Soul Society back then, just because of one punch, he had created an illusion similar to a natural disaster. So much so that for a long time, both Kyoraku Shunsui and Captain Yamamoto mistakenly believed that it was a natural disaster. Now that he came to Zanpakuto's soul space, he actually witnessed an Amaterasu catastrophe with his own eyes. It has to be said that it is an inexplicable coincidence. What should I do? Stop this disaster. Lu Yun's eyes flickered, but he didn't make a move. Advertisement. Although he only needs to hold the sealed state high, he can easily shatter the meteorite with a single slash. But Lu Yun is very clear that this is just Zanpakuto's soul space city, and the so-called undisaster is just an illusion. Even if the entire city is eventually destroyed by this huge meteorite, once he leaves Zanpakuto's soul space, everything will be back to normal. It can be said, this is a natural disaster that has no effect on Luyun. However, even so, Luyun still does not intend to stand idly by. Kai, a natural disaster of this magnitude would destroy the entire city in an instant, but then I would no longer be able to find the Zanpakuto spirit hidden in the city. So, I must act. Luyun's eyes burst out with a burst of brilliance, and finally decided to take action himself. Under the sky, Luyun stood tall and straight, staring at the sky coldly. Compared with the huge meteorite, he is as small as an insignificant ant. There is a huge difference in size between the two, as if their strength is completely out of proportion. However, the opposite is true. Luyun held the sealed state with one hand, his eyes were firm, his heart was calm, and he didn't feel the slightest fear because of the gradual decline of the fall. Instead, he took the initiative to take a step forward, releasing the Reiatsu inside him. This time, without the presence of Gote 13 personnel, the Empress finally fully released the calendar area in her body. Bang! The Reiatsu riot instantly condensed into substance, turning into hundreds of streamers of light shining in all directions. Tens of thousands of streamers shot out, dispelling the deep red color of the sky in a blink of an eye, and replacing it. The entire sky turned into azure blue, which was extremely spectacular. Advertisement. To be fair, this is the first time that Luyun has released all the Reiatsu in his body since he came to Soul Society. Since Reiatsu has been suppressed for a long time, once released, it is unstoppable. Those hundreds of streamers of light, each of which is condensed by Reiatsu, almost turned into substance, contains unimaginable terrifying power. If it was in the Soul Society, I am afraid that the entire Rukongai will be destroyed because they cannot bear this horrible Reiatsu. Call. After releasing all the power in his body, Luyun's aura rose steadily. After many years, I'm afraid this is the first time I'm serious. Luyun said with an intriguing arc on the corner of his mouth, as if mocking himself. Indeed, before crossing, he didn't dare to use all his strength. Because he was afraid that if he disagreed with each other, the whole city would be destroyed. After coming to the Soul Society, Lu Mi is also afraid of destroying the entire Soul Society. Therefore, no one has ever seen his true strength. Let's end this natural disaster. After saying this, Luyun's eyes turned cold, he raised the sealed state to the top of his head, and slammed it down. A blow that contains seriousness, all the strength in the body is unreservedly poured into this slash. In an instant, Reiatsu rioted, sweeping around like a storm. At this moment, time seems to freeze. The sky, the clouds, even the clouds in the sky are still. The whole world seemed to be left with only that bright and moving slash, like a flower of dawn blooming in the darkness. This slash like a stream of light rushed straight into the sky, and slashed straight at the meteorite in the sky. Advertisement. That was the slash that Luyun launched in the full serious state. Even looking at the entire Soul Society, it can be called the world's #1 slashing attack. If he was directly hit by this slash, everything in the world would be wiped out. The blazing light illuminated the entire sky, and it unexpectedly forcibly dispersed all the red light. With the passage of time, the slash gradually increased, and finally slashed at the meteorite under the gaze of Luyun's eyes. Boom. Accompanied by a loud noise, the meteorite, which was as blazing as the sun, could not withstand the blow and shattered. Click, click, click. The huge meteorite was torn apart and turned into countless tiny fragments in an instant. It flew across the sky like a meteor and fell to the ground continuously. Sky riot. Reiatsu disorder. For a time, the sky seemed to have a dazzling meteor shower. The natural disaster is finally resolved. Then, Zanpakuto's soul should also appear. Luyun murmured in a low voice, full of expectation. Sure enough, not long after, a lazy voice suddenly sounded, breaking the silence around. You can smash the meteorite with a single knife and solve this crisis. It seems that you are still a weird. Luyun, although I don't want to admit it, I have to say that I have been waiting for you here for a long time. After hearing this lazy voice, Luyun was stunned, as if he was facing a big enemy. And at the end of his field of vision, a loose and thin figure appeared. Advertisement. Chapter 87. My name is Saitama, 3/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Luyun, although I don't want to admit it, I have to say that I have been waiting for you here for a long time. After hearing this lazy voice, Luyun was stunned, as if he was facing a big enemy. And at the end of his field of vision, a loose and thin figure appeared. A casual face came into view. It was an unpretentious face, without the slightest eye-catching features. It could even be described as a dragon face. And the iconic big bald head can reflect the bright sun. Strictly speaking, even if the person in front of him is thrown into the crowd, no one will notice his existence immediately. After all, no one will care about an inconspicuous bald head. Even Lu Yun had the same idea. Who are you? Lu Yun's expression was solemn, his eyes fixed on the mysterious bald man in front of him, as if he was facing an enemy. For some reason, although the first impression of the bald man in front of him was that he was weak, he didn't have the demeanor of a strong man at all. He has neither the noble and cold temperament of Byakuya Kuchiki. There is no domineering and fierce temperament of Zaraki Kenpachi, nor the cunning and mysterious temperament of Ichimaru Jin. There are almost no bright spots on him, of course, except for the big bald head like a light bulb. However, it was such an inconspicuous man that actually made Lu Yun feel a long-lost sense of crisis in his heart. You must know that since mastering the power of One Punch Man, no one can bring him such feelings no matter which world he goes to, and the bald man is the only exception. That is to say, peer-to-peer. Advertisement. Oh, I seem to have forgotten to introduce myself. The bald man scratched his head loosely, with a look of doing whatever he wanted, as if he had no energy to fight. Under the light bulb-like bald head, he was wearing a yellow uniform with a cloak, adding a sense of humor to the bald man. No matter in terms of appearance, aura, or even clothing, the word, vegetable chicken, seems to be written on his face. The bald man shrugged his shoulders. He looked around, looked at the empty street, and curled his lips helplessly. My name is Kyu, and I am an ordinary person hidden in this space. Kyu. Lu Yun raised his eyebrows, still maintaining vigilance, not daring to be careless. After all, this fact is too weird, and even now Lu Yun can't see through Saitama's strength. Chi Yu doesn't have the slightest aura of a strong man, but looks ordinary instead. But no one would have imagined that there was an unbelievably terrifying king of power hidden in Kang's thin and small body. At this time, facing Lu Yun's cold gaze, Teacher Kyu was stunned. Oh, don't stare at me with such terrible eyes, I'm not a bad person. Teacher Kyu looked around again, and murmured helplessly, I have been living in seclusion in this deserted city for a long time. The only thing I have to do every day is to exercise regularly. To tell you the truth, my dream is to be a hero. Exercise and become a hero. Lu Yun's face was startled, and he was completely relieved. At this moment, he was finally able to confirm that the mysterious bald man in front of him was his Zanpakuto soul. Because when Lu Yun was not a strong person before time travel, he also exercised with the same idea and obsession, and finally mastered the power of One Punch Man. So from this point of view, the two are exactly the same. Advertisement. But, Kyu touched his smooth head, and sighed with a sad face. Although I have become stronger, I have also become bald. The gain is not worth the loss. What bothers me even more is that when I lose my hair, I also lose my passion for fighting. So everyday life is really boring. Then why are you waiting for me here? Lu Yun interrupted Saitama's words and asked in bewilderment. Well, it's a long story. Saitama-sensei curled his lips and said casually. You must also know that this is Zanpakuto's soul space, right? Lu Yun nodded irrefutably. I was born because we had the same dream and the same power. Have you forgotten? Zanpakuto and Shinigami were born and died together, and the two are inseparable. Zero looking for flowers. So, the moment you become a Shinigami, I already exist. After listening to Teacher Kyu's words, Lu Yun's expression became more dignified, and he murmured in a low voice, have the same power. You mean? That's right, Teacher Saitama lazily said. As long as I want to, I can beat anyone with one punch. Advertisement. He is not proud of his own strength, but has a kind of calmness that is taken for granted. As expected, Lu Yun's mind once again recalled what Teacher Shinigami said back then. Awakening Zanpakuto is a long process. Only when Shinigami continuously pours Reiatsu into Zanpakuto, will it gradually have its own soul, character, and even ability. Oh, it is precisely because Lu Yun himself has the power of One Punch Man, that Saitama-sensei was born. Seeming to see Lu Yun's troubles, Saitama teacher continued. Lu Yun, look at this city, the empty streets, the surroundings are silent and deserted, it is completely a dead city. Do you know why it is like this? Lu Yun frowned slightly and shook his head, he also wanted to know the truth. That's because our two strengths are mutually exclusive. Saitama teacher curled his lips and said casually, the power I possess is not only a part of the power in your body, but also independent, but my power is essentially a part of Zanpakuto. It is precisely because you deliberately suppress the power of Zanpakuto because of this, the world has become like this. Before that, the world was bustling and bustling, with a large population. It used to be a bustling metropolis, but now I'm the only one left alone, alas. Teacher Saitama sighed helplessly, as if he felt uncomfortable with this boring life. Bored. Is that why you waited for me? Lu Yun asked thoughtfully. That's right, I'm tired of this kind of life. Teacher Kyu's expression changed, and he said seriously, Lu Yun, only by defeating me can our two strengths be completely integrated. So, let's fight with all our strength. Advertisement. Chapter 88. Come on, hurt each other, 4/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. That's right. I'm tired of this kind of life. Teacher Kyu's expression changed, and he said seriously, Luyun, only by defeating me can our two strengths be completely integrated. So, let's fight with all our strength. Although Saitama-sensei's expression became serious, but, still makes people feel weak. This can't be blamed on him. After all, after becoming bald, his appearance looks too ordinary, like a dragon. Even if he was serious, he still didn't exude a strong aura. Does this guy really have the same ability as me? Luyun shrugged, expressing his doubts. No matter how you look at it, Mr. Saitama doesn't look like a strong man, but Takumi gives people a feeling of vegetable chicken. Facing such an opponent, Luyun couldn't cheer up at all. Why? You don't want to make a move? Seeing that Luyun hadn't made a move for a long time, Teacher Kyu frowned slightly, as if he was not in a happy mood. All of a sudden, a powerful aura surged out of his body, pressing down on Luyun like an invisible sea. It was the invisible murderous aura that had made countless monsters terrified. When this murderous aura enveloped the air, Luyun's face changed in shock, feeling a heavy pressure on his shoulders, and even his breathing was affected. So he didn't take it seriously until now. Luyun's face was serious, if he could still maintain his composure when facing Captain Yamamoto. Then Saitama-sensei gave him a feeling of invincibility. Advertisement. It was as if the ugly bald man in front of him couldn't be defeated. Under the black hair, Luyun's face was filled with a smile full of interest. Mr. Saitama, who was going all out, finally forced him to be serious. When he was in Soul Society, whether he was fighting Ichimaru Jin or Zaraki Kenpachi, Luyun always restrained his own strength and did not dare to attack easily. Because he was afraid that they would be beheaded if he didn't pay attention, which would cause tragedy. But, when facing Teacher Kyu, Luyun seemed to have an illusion that the shackles on his body disappeared. Here he can not only go all out to fight, but also thoroughly enjoy the fun of fighting. Only because his opponent is one punch supreme. The atmosphere is dignified, and there is a dead silence in the air that makes people breathe heavily. When Teacher Saitama's aura diffused, the whole world stopped, and it seemed that he was the only one left in the world. Although he looks mediocre, his aura is enough to overwhelm the Hong Kong officials. At this time, Luyun asked, Saitama, you mean if I can defeat you, then our strengths will merge with each other, right? That's right. Teacher Saitama responded undeniably. As long as you can defeat me, it means that you have gained my approval, and you can learn the name of Zanpakuto from my mouth. From then on, the sealed state in your hand will change become Zanpakuto. Advertisement. Then what do you mean? After Shikai, I can use your power to fight. Luyun's eyes flashed a gleam, and he asked deliberately. That's right, the premise is that you beat me. Teacher Kyu looked at Luyun calmly, and said, if you don't want to attack, then it's my turn. But you don't have to worry, I will only use ordinary punches with the least power. Perhaps, if the people from Gote 13 were present, when they heard the word, ordinary boxing, they would smile disapprovingly and contemptuously, and even think that Mr. Saitama was joking. Who is Luyun? Soul Society's once-in-a-century genius was able to suppress Ichimaru Jin and knock down Zaraki Kenpachi. Would such a strong man be afraid of a mere, ordinary punch? It's ridiculous. Unfortunately, Luyun himself didn't think so. He knows just how powerful One Punch Man really is, and can even kill Gote 13's Shinigami with a single punch. Although it was just an ordinary punch, it should not be underestimated. Can I take it? At this moment, Luyun kept echoing this sentence in his mind, but even he himself didn't know the answer. After all, this was the first time he faced an enemy of the same strength. As soon as I made a move, even I was afraid, this sentence is not exaggerated. Although there were doubts in his heart, Luyun did not retreat, but took the initiative to take a step forward and confronted Teacher Kyu resolutely. If he can't bear this punch, he will lose the opportunity to awaken Zanpakuto, which is not worth the candle. Advertisement. Backquote let's shoot. Luyun's eyes were burning, and he held Zanpakuto tightly with both hands, and placed it horizontally in front of him, assuming a posture of parrying. He is tall and straight, and the majestic Reiatsu surges out, sweeping all directions like waves. Luyun's aura continued to rise and soon reached its peak. At this moment, he didn't hold anything back, the Reiatsu in his body almost poured out. At this moment, in order to deal with Saitama's old punch flow, go show yourself the strongest posture. On the other hand, after feeling this desperate and majestic Reiatsu, Saitama-sensei didn't show any expression. As the One Punch Supreme, he has the power to kill anyone with one punch, so he is naturally easily oppressed. After all, no one has ever been able to withstand a punch from him. As expected of the master of Zanpakuto, he remained calm in the face of a strong opponent. Saitama teacher sincerely praised. However, just relying on courage and determination, Wang Zhao's can't easily block my fist. Teacher Qiu held up his fist with a serious face. At this moment, the atmosphere became extremely heavy. On one side is the owner of Zanpakuto, while on the other side is the soul of Zanpakuto. The two should have a close relationship, but because of special reasons, they have to start a duel here. Let's do it, Qiu. Luyuan's eyes were burning, he held up the sealed state, and his blood was boiling. Finally, under Luyuan's dignified gaze, Teacher Qiu stepped forward and blasted that fist of justice. P.S. I'm sorry, the author's backend exploded just now, I seem to have posted it repeatedly, and it has been deleted now, sorry. By the way, begging for everything, flower evaluation tickets are rewarded, and there are automatic subscriptions. I will maintain 6 updates every day, thank you big brothers for your support. By the way, thank you for the 1888V coin reward in the season of wind and rain, thank you for your support. Advertisement. Chapter 89 One Punch vs. One Knife, 5/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Finally, under Luyuan's dignified gaze, Teacher Qiu stepped forward and blasted that fist of justice. A punch for justice. Perhaps for Saitama-sensei, this is just an ordinary punch. However, for Luyuan, he was facing an unprecedented crisis. If he couldn't block this punch, he might be killed instantly. After all, his opponent is one punch supreme. In this world, no one can withstand a punch from Saitama. As the saying goes, there is nothing in the world that cannot be solved with one punch, if there is, then it is 2 punches. Although Luyuan also has the power of One Punch Man, after using the sealed state, this power is transformed into one sword invincibility, which can easily kill the enemy in seconds with just one slash. However, when the two forces collide with each other, no one knows which is stronger and which is weaker. After all, there have never been 2 one-punch supremes in this world. The atmosphere was dignified, and time fell into a standstill. Only the figures of Teacher Saitama and Luyuan stood tall in the strong wind. Everything is silent, only the violent ups and downs of the heart 950 times. Bang bang bang. Every time the heart beats, it is like the eve of a storm, and there is a desperate silence everywhere. Heavy, oppressive, suffocating. Just the aura emanating from the two of them is enough to make everything in the world tremble. Advertisement. Go ahead, Saitama. Luyuan's eyes were hot and his heart was firm. He is tall and straight, holding the sealed state tightly with both hands, with a domineering momentum. The boiling blood in the body and the eyes shining with hope all indicate that Luyuan's inner fighting spirit is high. He has the confidence to block this punch. Then, I'm going to make a move. Teacher Saitama still had such a casual expression, as if the once-in-a-century genius of the Soul Society in front of him couldn't make him serious. He took a step forward, put his 5 fingers together, clenched into a fist, and immediately punched out. A simple and rough punch, without any fancy, and without any abnormal changes, it seems to be without threat. However, at the moment when the fist was swung out, Luyuan's expression changed, because he felt a long-lost crisis. I don't know how many people have never had this feeling. He who has always been invincible met a difficult opponent for the first time. Just one punch has such power, it's really scary. Luyuan's expression was serious, and he tightened his grip on Zanpakuto. He felt a powerful oppression oncoming. This force was invisible and colorless, hidden in the fist, it is not easy for people to notice. This punch seems to be able to crush the sky. Do you have this level of power just by being a little serious? This is very similar to me. The corners of Luyuan's mouth rose, and he was not afraid of this terrifying fist, but had strong expectations. At the same time, under Luyuan's gaze, the fist gradually approached. 10 meters, 5 meters, 1 meter. Finally, the seemingly insignificant fist ruthlessly hit the sword. Advertisement. Boom. The moment the fist collided with the blade, a shocking energy exploded. The deafening sound resounded throughout the city. The terrifying energy formed by the collision between the fist and the blade almost condensed into substance, sweeping around like a tsunami, and the violent wind surged in midair. The sky is constantly twisting, the clouds are flying into ashes and disappearing, and even the earth is constantly trembling and falling apart. Suddenly, the whole city seemed to be facing the end of the world once again, and this time the situation became even more serious. COD. All of this comes from the power of just one punch. At the same time, Luyuan was in the center of Uzumaki's energy. Although he had been prepared for a long time, when the power of a punch struck, he still felt an unbearable sense of oppression. That was the energy storm caused by Teacher Saitama's punch, the invisible oppression. How can a simple punch be so terrifying? But just this level is not enough to repel me. Luyuan's eyes were firm, his feet stomped heavily on the ground, and he never took a step back. The blood in his body boiled more and more, and the long-lost fighting spirit was stimulated again. Before he possessed the power of One Punch Man, there was already an unyielding spirit flowing in his bones. It's not enough, Saitama. This time, it was Luyun's turn to look serious. He roared up to the sky, his momentum soaring into the sky, his voice seemed to penetrate the clouds and reach the top of the sky. Teacher Kyu, who was originally calm, couldn't help but let out a sigh after witnessing Luyun's change. Reasonably speaking, although this is just an ordinary punch, it is enough to instantly kill most creatures. However, Luyun survived unscathed. Advertisement. What surprised Teacher Kyu even more was that Luyun's aura became more and more powerful, and he actually crushed him in turn. Brush. The veins on Luyun's arm were throbbing, he tightly grasped the handle of the sealed state knife with both hands, and slashed down in the air. Immediately, a slash containing terrifying power surged out along the tip of the knife, and collided with the force from Teacher Saitama's fist. The two forces collided with each other, evenly matched. Not long after, a crisp cracking sound sounded, breaking the silence around. Click. Where the two fought, the sky was distorted, and there were even cracks visible to the naked eye. The fight between the two of them almost broke the space barrier. Well, the two let out a muffled grunt at the same time, and their figures kept retreating, standing on the top of two tall buildings. My fist hurts, Luyun. I can barely hold the sealed state, Saitama. Saitama-sensei rubbed his fists, a smile of anticipation finally appeared on his face that had remained calm since the beginning of the battle. Luyun flicked his palm, and then held the handle of the sealed state knife, a flash of shock flashed deep in his pupils, and he became very excited immediately. At this moment, both of them had the same thought in their hearts. This guy gave me the urge to go all out. Advertisement. Chapter 90. Everything is over. 6/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. At this moment, both of them had the same thought in their hearts. This guy gives me the urge to go all out. Compared to those weird guys, you seem to be stronger. Saitama teacher finally got serious, he rubbed his fists, and the pain of force passing through his fists made him frown inadvertently. I don't know how many years, but this is the first time Saitama feels pain after becoming One Punch Man. In the past, no matter the ghost level or even the dragon level weirdo, in front of him, he was just someone who was killed with a single punch. However, when he blasted out the ordinary punch, he was blocked by Luyun unscathed. Saitama-sensei was surprised. Aren't you the same, Saitama? Although Luyun didn't change his expression, his hands holding the sealed state had become numb. The previous huge energy shock almost made him unable to hold the sealed state. This is the first time he encountered a situation after coming to Soul Society. In the past, no matter whether it was the chairman or the captain of Gote 13, nothing could make him serious. He only needs to make a serious slash, and he can easily defeat any opponent. However, when facing teacher Saitama, Luyun experienced the tricky feeling for the first time. It's no wonder I still can't awaken Zanpo. A gleam of light flashed in Luyun's eyes, and he was completely enlightened. Although the nameless Zanpakuto in his hand does not show any abnormality on the outside, there is a terrifying powerhouse like Saitama-sensei hidden in the soul space. If it were someone else, I'm afraid they would never be able to awaken Zanpakuto for the rest of their lives, because they couldn't control that powerful force, let alone convince Saitama-sensei. And Luyun has all the opportunities because he also has the power of One Punch Man. In terms of strength level alone, he is not weaker than teacher Saitama. The only difference between the two is that one uses fists and the other uses sealed state, that's all. So, this is a well-matched duel. Advertisement. Teacher Kyu stood on the top of the tall building, looking at Luyun with a surprised face, and his calm heart was filled with waves. The strength shown by Luyun completely exceeded Saitama's expectations, and even made him feel the long-lost pressure, which has never happened before. Luyun, I'm really surprised that you can block my normal punch. But it's not enough to make me recognize you. Teacher Kyu's voice fell to the shadow in an instant. The figure disappeared without a sound, even without any sign. What a terrifying speed. Luyun's pupils shrank suddenly, and the nerves in his whole body tensed up. Suddenly, his eyes were fixed, and he swung the sealed state with his backhand, slashing back fiercely. With a harsh bang, the battle between Mr. Saitama and Luyun broke out again. The two of them still performed the same moves, and when the fists and blades collided with each other, a terrifying energy centered on them and swept towards the surroundings. The clouds in the sky collapsed, and all the surrounding buildings collapsed, completely unable to withstand this powerful force. Just because of the blow they fought against each other, half of the big city collapsed and turned into ruins. Brush. The figures of the two intersected each other in midair, fists and sealed states collided constantly, each collision would cause the distortion of space. That's the fun. That's right, the weirdo I met before was too weak, only you can make me serious. The voices of the two kept echoing, both excited and excited. Advertisement. It was another collision of fist and slash, this time an invisible deep pit appeared in the center of the city. Call. The two stood on the ruined walls, panting. Even though he got serious, he still didn't know the outcome. On the one hand, Saitama-sensei realized that if this continues, it is absolutely possible to win or lose in a short time. Just normal punches are not enough. If you want to defeat Luyun, you have to beat him seriously. Are you forcing me to use serious beating? Teacher Kyu's eyes flashed a strange light. Even he himself did not expect that after using ordinary punches and two-handed ordinary punches in succession, he would still be evenly divided with Luyun. Zero looking for flowers. This made him realize how powerful Luyun is. But on the other side, Luyun had the same idea. When facing the captain of Gote 13, he only needs to remember, slightly serious slash, to knock them down easily. But when he made dozens of such slashes, he still couldn't hurt a hair of Saitama's teacher. Only then did he realize, such an opponent is simply too powerful. The two stared at each other again, as if they could see each other's thoughts. Luyun, you also know that if this continues, we will never be able to tell the winner. Yeah, being a little serious isn't enough, Saitama. Advertisement. So, what are you going to do? Why don't you use all your strength to decide the outcome with one strike? A few simple conversations, but the two have the same thoughts. Instead of continuing to entangle, it is better to use all your strength to fight to the death. Whoever can stand to the end in this attack is the winner. If Luyun wins, then he will get the approval of Saitama teacher, so as to learn the name of Zanpakuto, and truly awaken Zanpakuto. If it fails, the consciousness will return to reality, and there is only waiting for the next opportunity to enter the soul space. Then, it's a deal. The two looked at each other, with a strong fighting intent in their eyes. The same power, different identities, will eventually decide the outcome in this special space. Who will win the deer, even they themselves don't know. Saitama-sensei took a step forward, put his 5 fingers together, clenched into a fist, and immediately punched out. Luyun also took a step forward, he raised his arms high, gripped the sealed state tightly, and immediately slashed down in the air. The supreme punch, the invincible knife. At the moment when two indescribably terrifying punches and slashes collided with each other, the whole world seemed to cease to exist. Everything is over. P.S. The 6th update is over. Please ask for a flower evaluation ticket, and by the way, thank you for the 3000 V coins of the Power Cousins. Advertisement. Chapter 91 Awakening Zanpakuto, 1/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The Supreme Punch, the Invincible Knife. At the moment when two indescribably terrifying punches and slashes collided with each other, the whole world seemed to cease to exist. A terrifying energy centered on the bodies of the two, and ripples visible to the naked eye appeared in midair, like a storm sweeping around, eating away at the world bit by bit. Wherever the energy storm went, no matter if it was a towering building or a spacious street, it was all reduced to ashes the moment it touched the energy storm, not even debris left behind. The sky twisted, the ground trembled, and the clouds shattered. It seemed that everything in the world could not withstand the bombardment of this punch and knife. If this level of energy collision is placed in the Soul Society, it may cause an unimaginable disaster. That terrifying energy storm alone can take the lives of 667, and everyone, even Captain Shinigami. No exception. No one can withstand this powerful force that can crush the sky. The light is shining, blazing and blinding. The figures of Luyun and Teacher Kyu were completely submerged in it, as if they disappeared together with the city. It's all over. The energy storm continued to spread, and eventually enveloped every corner of the entire city, completely submerging everything. Advertisement. After the hustle and bustle, the whole space returned to calm again. There was no sound, no figure, no bird or beast. Suddenly, an astonishing wave erupted from the sky above the city, and a powerful beam of Reiatsu light descended from the sky, enveloping the entire city once again. Strangely, it seems that under the beam of Reiatsu's light, everything that disappeared before reappeared. The towering buildings, the floating white clouds, and the cold wind blowing slightly. Looking around, the surrounding environment seemed to have returned to its original appearance, as if that earth-shattering battle had never happened. There seemed to be an intriguing dull atmosphere hidden in the air. The loneliness in it is even more depressing. Suddenly, a tired voice sounded, completely breaking the silence. You are so strong, Luyun, you can push me to this extent. That's Saitama-sensei's voice. On the top of one of the high-rise buildings, Mr. Saitama was lying on the roof in a state of embarrassment. At this time, he was weak and pale, and the yellow windbreaker he was wearing was incomplete and damaged. For the first time in history, Mr. Saitama was beaten so hard that he couldn't move. Advertisement. Saitama-sensei was lying on the floor of the rooftop, staring at the sky closely, with complicated thoughts. As One Punch Man, he will fight absent-mindedly every time he faces any monster. It's not that he doesn't want to enjoy the fun of fighting, but the enemy is too weak, so that he feels that fighting is boring. As time goes by, Saitama-sensei has not experienced the joy of fighting for a long time. Until the battle with Liu Yun, that long-lost feeling finally resurfaced in my heart. Finally someone let me try the taste of failure. A long-lost smile appeared on Saitama's usually calm face. Although he was collapsed on the ground now, this smile came from his heart, just because after so many years he finally met a comparable opponent. At this time, Liu Yun's voice sounded. Oh, I'm so sorry, Kyu, I seem to have taken it too seriously. On another building not far from Teacher Kyu, Liu Yun held the handle of the sealed state knife with one hand, leaning on the barb on the ground barely standing. His breath was out of order, and the Death Tyrant outfit on his body was incomplete, and he also looked very embarrassed. It's just that compared to Teacher Kitama, Liu Yun's situation is more optimistic. After all, he can barely stand, but Teacher Kyu can't move. The duel between One Punch and One Knife finally decided the winner. The same power, different people, but it ended in Liu Yun's victory. A little too serious. Ha ha ha. Saitama teacher looked at Liu Yun who was not far away with a weak face and laughed at himself. At this moment, Liu Yun appeared next to Teacher Kyu, looked at him and said, "Thank you for allowing me to enjoy this battle, Kyu. But since the victory and defeat have been decided, I must be able to get your approval." Bar. Kyu looked into Liu Yun's eyes and nodded undeniably, but there was a trace of unwillingness deep in his pupils. 0. Advertisement. Oh, don't look at me with such aggrieved eyes, Saitama. Liu Yun comforted naturally. Saitama, you are very strong. When Soul Society faced Gote 13, all the officers couldn't resist my strike, even the captain. Only you can make me serious awe. How about we fight again when you are fully recovered? Ha ha ha, am I the only one who made you serious? Saitama-sensei resisted the severe pain in his body, and smiled helplessly. He has the same idea. Maybe only Liu Yun can make him feel better in this world. Feel the fun of fighting. You're really strong, Liu Yun, it's far stronger than I expected. Teacher Saitama closed his eyes and said sincerely. If anyone heard what Saitama-sensei said, their jaws would drop in shock. The One Punch Man, who has always been invincible, would actually admire a person from the bottom of his heart. This is simply an unbelievable thing. When will One Punch Man be wowed too? Hey, although I don't want to admit it, I did lose this battle. Saitama-sensei closed his eyes tightly, as if using all his strength to say these words. Until this moment, he truly recognized the history of Liu Hui. In other words, with the end of the battle between the two, Liu Yun is about to face the most important moment after he became a Shinigami, awakening Zanpakuto. 5.8 inches then. Can you tell me the real name of Zanpakuto? Liu Yun stood up, stretched out his arms to Saitama teacher full of expectation. Zanpakuto is truly awakened only when the name is known and called out. My power is also a part of you. Hence this is our common Zanpakuto. Saitama-sensei opened his eyes suddenly, the depths of his eyes glowed brightly, and he said solemnly in Japan, its name is Invincible. P.S. Ladies and gentlemen, it is really difficult to choose a name. I have been thinking about it for a long time but I have not come up with a suitable name. So soliciting everyone's opinions, help me think of a cool name and Shikai slogan, if there is a suitable one, I will modify it immediately. This is only temporary, do not spray. Advertisement. Chapter 92 I didn't mean it. 2/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The moment Saitama-sensei said Zanpakuto's name, a majestic column of spiritual light suddenly erupted from the surface of his body, and centered on him and Liu Yun. It spread rapidly to the surroundings. Wherever Reiatsu's beam of light goes, everything is annihilated and completely disappeared. Since you already know Zanpakuto's name, then I should disappear too. Teacher Saitama said with a kind smile on his face, looking at the blue sky reluctantly. Is there any chance for us to meet again? Liu Yun asked with a complicated expression. Of course. Teacher Kyu turned sideways with all his strength, smiled at Liu Yun, and said, Liu Yun, you are so strong that you beat me so hard that I couldn't move. I just disappeared temporarily when I lost a lot of Reiatsu. I will reappear when you need my strength. Shikai. Liu Yun's eyes flickered, and he couldn't help but grip Zanpakuto's handle tightly. The moment he learned the name of Zanpakuto from Saitama-sensei, the liberation language of Zanpakuto also appeared in his mind. It's just that Liu Yun doesn't know what the post-Shikai's ability is and how powerful it is. 20. Gradually, the Reiatsu beam of light has enveloped most of the city. It's time to say goodbye. Teacher Kyu raised his hands and rubbed his fists with difficulty, and looked at Liu Yun with burning eyes, with a fighting spirit rising in his heart, eager to fight Liu Yun again. Advertisement. Remember, be careful when you come here next time, because I will become stronger than you. Saitama-sensei finally closed his eyes, with an expectant smile on his face. His body became blurred and dim until transparent, and finally turned into countless tiny fluorescent lights floating in midair, dissipating with the wind. In the blink of an eye, only Luyun was left in the center of the big city. Will it become stronger than me? Luyun stretched out his arm to hold the fluorescent light floating in midair in his palm, and there was an arc of interest in the corner of his mouth. He shook his head seriously and said in a low voice, "That's not enough, Saitama. I didn't give my all in that fight just now." His voice gradually spread around like a ripple. It's a pity that Saitama-sensei is no longer here. Otherwise, you will definitely be shocked by his words. He still beat himself immobile while retaining his strength. What are you kidding? That's One Punch Man. Then it's time for me to leave here. Luyun held Zanpakuto tightly. He could clearly feel a wonderful feeling coming from the blade. This feeling was completely different from before. The original vague repulsion disappeared. On the contrary, there is a kind of close affinity. Under the black hair was a satisfied hearty smile. Luyun finally closed his eyes and left the Zanpakuto soul space. In the early morning, the morning sun rises slowly, the dazzling sunlight shines on the earth, and the surface of all things is covered with a layer of afterglow. There was a lively commotion in the 11th team dormitory. It was the time for the Q meeting, and all the team members were concentrating on their practice. Only Luyun was missing from the dense crowd. In the room that belonged to Luyun himself, he sat cross-legged in the center of the room with his eyes closed and his hands placed flat on the Zanpakuto. Advertisement. Since the spirit entered Zanpakuto's soul space, he has maintained this posture, with Reiatsu surging all over his body, pouring into it continuously along the surface of Zanpakuto. Suddenly, Luyun opened his eyes, and his consciousness returned to reality. I finally awakened Zanpakuto. To be honest, I don't want to leave there. After all, only Saitama can make me serious. Luyun said with regret and nostalgia on his face. Luyun tried to hold Zanpakuto's handle tightly, but suddenly something happened at this moment. The moment his palm touched Zanpakuto, the Reiatsu that had been pouring into it poured out like a torrent without reservation. Bang! Accompanied by a loud noise, the majestic Reiatsu turned into streams, sweeping all directions with great momentum. Because the density of Reiatsu is too exaggerated, the space is continuously distorted, as if it can't bear this powerful coercion. The reason why Luyun's Reiatsu has undergone a qualitative change is because after gaining the approval of Saitama-sensei, the strength of the two of them was completely fused, and the previously suppressed Reiatsu was released. The combination of the two has such power. The Reiatsu continued to gather, and soon a circular Reiatsu beam of light was formed around Luyun. With a loud bang, Reiatsu's beam of light broke through the roof, and even soared into the sky like a rainbow. Outside the house, everyone was stunned by this sudden scene. What happened? What happened to this beam of Reiatsu light? Advertisement. Could it be that Captain Zaraki has awakened? But I once felt Captain Zaraki's Reiatsu, but it didn't even have 1/10 of the intensity of this beam of light. Oh my god, what the hell is going on? This density of Reiatsu is probably beyond the reach of Captain Yamamoto, right? The faces of the 11th team members were pale. When the Reiatsu beam of light hit them, all of them couldn't bear the powerful Reiatsu oppression and fell to the ground with a plop. Wow! Everyone groaned palely, because the Reiatsu surrounding 323 was so thick that they couldn't even breathe. Many people even rolled their eyes and passed out directly. Not only the ordinary team members and chief executives, but also Yasugawa and Madarame Makaku fell to the ground because they couldn't bear the powerful Reiatsu. Damn it! Maybe this is Reiatsu from Luyun's body. Madarame Makaku's face was ferocious. Even though he was struggling hard, he still couldn't get up, and the strength of Reiatsu alone was enough to make him lose the experience of struggling. The Reiatsu in his body is not at the same level as this Reiatsu. I'm afraid only Luyun can cause such a big commotion. Ace Chuan collapsed on the ground, looking at the house belonging to Luyun with a bitter smile. At this time, the door of the house was suddenly opened, and Luyun's figure appeared in everyone's sight. Hey, why did they all fall to the ground? Is the training method of the 11th team so special? Looking at the messy 11th team building where all the members fell to the ground, Luyun seemed to realize something. He said seriously and awkwardly, "I'm sorry, I just inadvertently exuded a trace of Reiatsu, but I didn't expect it would cause such a result." A trace of Reiatsu. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched, and they were speechless for a while. Advertisement. Chapter 93 Rukia's Trouble, 3/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Just a trace of Reiatsu. Although they have long been used to Luyun's fearfulness, when they heard these words, Madarame Makaku and Yasugawa Komi still sighed helplessly. Just a trace of Reiatsu is so scary. How terrible is it when you go all out? The two dare not imagine. What made them even more helpless was that maybe other people would doubt what Luyun said, but Madarame Makaku and Ayasagawa Komi would not doubt it at all, because they had witnessed the battle between Luyun and Zaraki Kenpachi that day. Indeed, from the beginning to the end, Luyun did not use his full strength at all, otherwise, his current status would not only be the 4th member of the 11th team, but the new Kenpachi. I'm so sorry, I didn't control the Reiatsu in my body. Luyun said awkwardly. He looked around and found that all the members of the 11th team were prostrate on the ground, but they were still unable to get up despite struggling hard. Their faces flushed, their breathing was difficult, and they collapsed to the ground like a salted fish. All this is just because of an ordinary Reiatsu released by Luyun. Hey Luyun, don't bother apologizing, get rid of Reiatsu quickly. If this continues, I'm afraid I will suffocate to death. Madarame Makaku held his head up, as if exhausting all his strength and said with difficulty. Advertisement. Yeah, I'm about to faint, Ace Chuan said intermittently while panting. As the 3rd seat and 5th seat of the fighting team, the two were so oppressed by Luyun's inadvertent Reiatsu that they couldn't breathe. Even the two of them are so downcast, let alone the other team members. In just a few minutes, some fat players lost consciousness. I'm really sorry, I'll pay attention next time. Luyun shrugged, expressing his innocence. Actually his Reiatsu wasn't that powerful before awakening Zanpakuto. It's only after the fusion of Saitama's teacher's power that his Reiatsu will undergo a qualitative change. Since it was the first time to release the fused Reiatsu, even Luyun himself didn't realize how powerful Zanpakuto could be. Brush. Under Luyun's control, the beam of Reiatsu light visible to the naked eye gradually dissipated and returned to his body. In an instant, the ocean of Reiatsu covering the sky disappeared, and the heavy and suffocating feeling in the air also dissipated. Madarame Makaku opened his mouth forcefully, breathing desperately, he kept panting, his face flushed. Only a short period of Reiatsu oppression made his body almost lose consciousness, his bones were soft and his eyes were darkened. This is the scariest Reiatsu he has faced in decades as a Shinigami. Even 10 times stronger than Captain Yamamoto. It's really scary, such a monster is only the 4th seat of the team. Recalling the scene just happened, Madarame Makaku said with lingering fear. This is just an inadvertent situation. If Luyun is really angry, I am afraid that the high concentration of Reiatsu can easily crush them. Advertisement. Oh, it's troublesome now. Compared with the entire Gotei 13, you can feel such a terrifying Reiatsu oppression. This also violates the rule of you can't deliberately release Reiatsu. I'm afraid Captain Yamamoto will blame it. The two of us I'm going to suffer again. Ace Chuan shook his head and said distressedly. With Zaraki Kenpachi in a coma and Kusajishi Yakiru not in charge, the team affairs of the entire team are basically handled by the two of them. Once something happens, the two of them will be the first to take the blame. I'm sorry, it's all my fault for being careless. I'm afraid. Luyun looked at the surrounding buildings and said awkwardly. Afraid of what? Madarame Makaku was startled, he had a bad premonition faintly in his heart. Sure enough, when he followed Luyun's gaze, his face changed in surprise, and his expression became stunned. Because Luyun's Reiatsu is too huge, it inadvertently caused the surrounding buildings to be under great pressure as well. As a result, the roof of the house was damaged, the doors and windows were broken, and the whole house was crumbling. You know, this is a new house that was just built 2 days ago. This is too bad. I'm afraid the 11th team's funds are not enough. Madarame Makaku patted his head in distress, and said hopelessly. On the other side, there is a team building. When Luyun released Reiatsu, not only the 11th team was affected, but this strong oppression also spread to the first team's dormitory. Team room. This Reiatsu. Advertisement. At the moment when he felt this Reiatsu, Captain Yamamoto pondered solemnly, could there be an enemy attack? Just then, there was a rush of footsteps outside the door. The door was suddenly pushed open, and Chojiro Sasaki hurriedly came to Captain Yamamoto, panting and said. Captain, just now a Reiatsu beam of light burst out from the 11th Division, Gotei 13, except those with higher seats except for the chief executive, everyone else was affected to varying degrees, and many people even lost consciousness and completely fell into a coma. The situation is so serious. Captain Yamamoto's face gradually became gloomy. According to my induction, the owner of this Reiatsu is very likely to be Luyun, so what should we do? Chojiro Sasaki said in shock. Sure enough, it's that guy Luyun, and he's the only one who can have this level of Reiatsu. Captain Yamamoto immediately thought of Luyun, but he still underestimated Luyun's power, which surprised him very much. Denuo Zhao, as for the punishment, there is no need, he is just a newcomer, and it is normal for him not to understand the rules of Gotei 13. Without too much consideration, Captain Yamamoto said calmly. He didn't mean to blame and punish Luyun. But, Chojiro Sasaki was startled, it was the first time he saw that the majestic captain would easily forgive someone. He originally wanted to say something, but when he saw the captain's frown slightly, he immediately closed his mouth consciously. On the other hand, Luyun was unaware of the chaos created by Gote 13. Because of the awakening of Zanpakuto, he felt particularly comfortable, and immediately wanted to rush to the Junyang Academy to find Rukia and share this happiness with him. It's just that he didn't know that during this time, Lu Qi became very troubled by the appearance of a certain person. Advertisement. Chapter 94. This paralyzed face again. 4/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Luyun didn't know, Rukia has been troubled by the presence of someone. Since the end of the conference, Rukia didn't know that she was being targeted by Byakuya Kuchiki because of her amazing performance and too similar appearance. Byakuya Kuchiki, besides being the captain of the 6th division of Gote 13, has another special identity, that is, the 28th generation head of the Kuchiki family, one of the 4 nobles. He has everything that countless people expect: power, status, power. From the very beginning, Byakuya Kuchiki has the oldest blood of the Soul Society flowing through his body. As such, possesses an extremely powerful talent, and is one of those geniuses who can stand alongside Ichimaru Jin. In addition to his noble status, Byakuya Kuchiki also has a flawless handsome face. He has a handsome appearance, outstanding temperament, long black hair, and a particularly outstanding image. What's more important is that pair of light purple pupils. Because of the cold light from time to time, the expression seems cold, repelling people thousands of miles away. Whenever Byakuya Kuchiki goes to Rukongai, it always causes chaos because there are so many girls chasing his footsteps that they disturb the order of Rukongai. It's a pity that no matter how these civilians cheered and shouted, what they greeted was nothing but a frosty look. It can be said that Byakuya Kuchiki has everything he dreams of, just like the tall, rich and handsome of Soul Society. Reasonably speaking, such a perfect person would never pay attention to some unknown things, not to mention that Rukia's identity is just an ordinary student who has not yet graduated from the Junyangling Academy. But fate is so wonderful. The two people, who were supposed to have no intersection, were connected because of a woman who had passed away. It's as if two straight lines parallel to each other end up colliding with each other because of some accident. Advertisement. Surprisingly, the person who can make Byakuya Kuchiki put down his body to approach Rukia is not the famous nobleman in Soul Society, nor the strong man in Gote 13, but an unknown woman with ordinary birth. This woman's name is Kuchiki Feijun. Kuchiki Feijun, a low-key woman, not many people really know her even in Soul Society. She was born in poverty, and the reason why people know her existence is only because of her special status, Byakuya Kuchiki's wife. Kuchiki Hima originally lived in the neighborhood KDB, with the worst environment in Rukongai, but met Byakuya Kuchiki by accident for some reason. Ever since, under the guidance of the goddess of fate, the two not only met, but also fell in love together. This incident caused a huge sensation at the time, not only subverting everyone's ideas, but even received strong opposition from the former number 6 team captain Kuchiki Yinling. It is unbelievable that the next head of the dignified Kuchiki nobles will marry a down-and-out girl from Rukongai. At that time, no matter who heard the news, they would only treat it as a joke, and did not think that Byakuya Kuchiki would really marry Hima. However, the more you take things for granted, the more likely accidents will happen. In order to pursue love, Byakuya Kuchiki disregarded his status as the son of aristocrats, and under the eyes of ignoring the world, he openly married Hima, who was born in Rukongai, rewriting the history of the Soul Society and making countless people drop their jaws. After marrying into the Kuchiki noble, Feijun modified Kuchiki and became a new member of the Kuchiki noble. Although Kuchiki's family is not popular, but Kuchiki Feijun finally convinced everyone with her gentle and introverted character and outstanding temperament. This should have been a happy marriage. However, perhaps because God no longer cares about this marriage, this time the goddess of fate never helped Kuchiki Feijun again. Advertisement. Not long after marrying into the Kuchiki nobles, Kuchiki Hima, who was already weak, finally suffered from a terminal illness, and any means were useless. For this, Byakuya Kuchiki blamed himself deeply and often regretted his own powerlessness. In the end, Kuchiki Feijun became ill from overwork and died of illness, and this beautiful marriage also came to an end. But before he died, Kuchiki Feijun revealed the secret that he had abandoned his sister, and begged Byakuya Kuchiki to find and protect his sister. To commemorate his wife's forgetfulness, Byakuya Kuchiki has always kept Haijun's long-cherished wish in his heart. It's a pity that even if he used all the strength of the 6th division and the Kuchiki nobles during this year, he still couldn't find the mysterious sister. Just when Byakuya Kuchiki was disheartened and was about to give up, the freshman meeting that shocked Soul Society gave him a ray of hope. When he first saw Rukia on the stage, Byakuya Kuchiki's cold heart like an iceberg actually stirred up strong waves, as if he had been greatly stimulated. Why is it so similar? Who is she? At that time, he even kept repeating this sentence because he was too emotional. At that time, Byakuya Kuchiki, who had a stern face with a paralyzed face, finally showed a slight change in expression. His thoughts couldn't help recalling the past, and Kuchiki's face appeared in his mind. When Byakuya Kuchiki saw Rukia, he was stunned, because Rukia's appearance was so similar to Feijun, except for the difference in temperament, they were almost the same person. Advertisement. This near-impossible similarity caught Byakuya Kuchiki's attention instantly. Since then, Byakuya Kuchiki has made up his mind to find out the truth no matter what method is used in order to unravel the doubts in his heart. On the road leading to Junyang Lingyuan Academy, Luyun walked alone. Along the familiar road, he soon came to a familiar place. After stepping into the gate of the academy, Luyun didn't have too many thoughts, but went straight to the student dormitory to find Rukia. But when he arrived at the door of the student dormitory, he saw a scene that surprised him. In front of the supposedly empty student dormitory, more than a dozen figures appeared. They were dressed in black death suits, and they were Shinigami from Gotei 13. What attracted Luyun's attention the most was the leader's figure. Handsome appearance, outstanding temperament, black hair loose behind him, and a captain's haori on top of a black deadly costume. The character, 6, is engraved on the feather weave. Byakuya Kuchiki. This paralyzed face that deserves to be beaten again. When seeing Byakuya Kuchiki's figure, Luyun frowned slightly, and his heart burst into an unknown anger. Advertisement. Chapter 95. Please stay away from Rukia, 5/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. As this paralyzed face again. The moment Luyun saw Byakuya Kuchiki's figure, an unknown fire rose in Luyun's heart. Although he is also Gotei 13's Shinigami, he doesn't want to see Byakuya Kuchiki for no other reason, just because Byakuya Kuchiki has that cold and paralyzed face all the time, which makes people feel unfavorable. What Luyun dislikes the most is the coldness of Byakuya Kuchiki that repels others thousands of miles away. After all, before he came to Soul Society, he was plagued by loneliness, and now he feels this coldness again, which will make him inadvertently recall the past. Secondly, when they met at Baidaemon that day, although there was not much communication between the two, they did not leave a good impression on each other. From the beginning to the end, Byakuya Kuchiki's tone contained a kind of arrogance, as if he had the right to despise others because of the noble blood flowing in his body. He has always been aloof and admired by countless people, but this trick doesn't work in front of Luyun, and instead makes him feel disgusted. So the moment Luyun saw Byakuya Kuchiki, Luyun had the urge to beat him up. What does he want with a paralyzed face? Luyun suppressed the anger in his heart and stared ahead curiously. He suddenly found that Byakuya Kuchiki seemed to be prepared. In addition to himself, he was accompanied by the chief officer of the 6th Division, as if he had come here specifically for something. Could it be that he values a certain school in the academy? Luyun kept guessing in his heart. After all, only those students with outstanding talents could attract Captain Gotei 13 to Junyangling Academy. After all, every team leader has the right to invite students to join the team, just like when Kiraku Shunsui invited him in Lin Anzi Izakaya. Advertisement. But, besides me, there are other guys in Junyang Lingyuan Academy who can make a paralyzed face look good. Luyun was puzzled. It's not that he is narcissistic, but because when Byakuya Kuchiki invited him, the reason was also for Rukia, not because of his great talent and strength. Could it be that? Thinking of this, Luyun's eyes burst out with a flash of light, and he realized instantly. Looking at the entire Maoling Academy, there is only one person who can attract the attention of Byakuya Kuchiki, and that is Rukia. He's still trying to get Rukia's attention. Since that day when Byakuya Kuchiki approached the door, Luyun has been wary of him getting close to Rukia. Although Luyun doesn't know Byakuya Kuchiki's motivation and purpose, but because he doesn't like Byakuya Kuchiki, he still rejects him in his heart. So, unable to hold back his anger, Luyun took a big step and went straight to the gate of the students' dormitory. It's you. When seeing Luyun appear, Byakuya Kuchiki didn't change his expression, but a hint of surprise flashed in his purple pupils, as if he didn't want Luyun to appear. Is it strange? I used to be Mao's student. Isn't it common to go back to the academy in my spare time? Luyun stared at Byakuya Kuchiki's face and said coldly. I see. Byakuya Kuchiki just responded coldly, and didn't take Luyun's words to heart. His gaze automatically skipped over Luyun's body, but instead he stared at the gate closely, as if he was expecting something. After feeling the eyes of Byakuya Kuchiki, Luyun strengthened his previous guess. There is no doubt that Byakuya Kuchiki came for Rukia. Why are you here, Byakuya Kuchiki? Luyun asked coldly. For that woman, Rukia. Byakuya Kuchiki's voice was cold, and he responded coldly without too much explanation. Advertisement. Hateful. After hearing this sentence, Luyun's heart was burning with anger, and he said in a high voice. I come to you again and again. No matter what your purpose is, I advise you not to make any crooked ideas, and please stay away from Rukia. Luyun solemnly warned Byakuya Kuchiki, and did not give him a good face for half a year because he was the head of the Kuchiki nobles. Please stay away, Rukia. Although Luyun's voice was not loud, it contained an undeniable coercion, as if a strong will was integrated into it. As the person involved, Byakuya Kuchiki felt an oncoming coercion instantly. Obviously Luyun didn't release any reiatsu from his body, but he felt uneasy in his heart. 0 for flowers. This weird feeling finally changed Byakuya Kuchiki's paralyzed face. Why should I leave? The reason why I came to her is naturally my purpose, so you don't have to meddle in your own business. After only showing a slightly surprised expression, Byakuya Kuchiki didn't say a word. It's cold thousands of miles away. Shi Luyun, if I were you, I would walk away on my own initiative. What qualifications do you have to order the captain to leave? Advertisement. Isn't it just to show up at the conference? Really think that you can do whatever you want if you win the favor of the captain. The captain is the master of the Kuchiki nobles, and even the captain of Yamamoto is courteous to him, not to mention you are just 4 seats. In terms of seats alone, you are not qualified to make loud noises in front of the captain. Point 0. That is, no matter how much you ask, you can't change the captain's mind. I advise you to give up your mind and leave consciously. All around, the chief executives of the 6th Division were sneering and sarcastic. Although they are afraid of Luyun's strength, relying on Byakuya Kuchiki's power, they are not afraid of Luyun at all. Indeed, in terms of seats alone, Luyun is not qualified to dictate to Byakuya Kuchiki, let alone order him to leave. It's just that everyone seems to have overlooked one point: the seat they value is worthless in Luyun's eyes. If Luyun really cares about fame and status, then he can replace Zaraki Kenpachi when he knocks down Zaraki Kenpachi, and he will take the position logically. 10th second generation Kenpachi. But Luyun finally gave up and was willing to take the 4th seat, just because he didn't want to destroy everything in the 11th team. However, this kind of low-key is not a reason to be ridiculed. The ridicule from the chief of the 6th team completely angered Luyun. Are you reasonable with me? Luyun stepped forward, his eyes were cold, and he said in a deep voice, if you don't want to leave, then I have no choice but to beat you up, Byakuya Kuchiki. Advertisement. Chapter 96 Kuchiki is the master, seems to be weak. 6/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Luyun stepped forward, his eyes were cold, and he said seriously, if you don't want to leave, then I have no choice but to beat you up, Byakuya Kuchiki. When Luyun said this, everyone was dumbfounded. Doesn't this guy know the identity of Captain Kuchiki? It's impossible. Captain Kuchiki personally recruited him at Baidaemon that day, but he was rejected. Ueno Urushihara, the 7th member of the 6th team, opened his mouth wide open. How to express inner emotions. This is the first time he has seen someone threaten to beat Byakuya Kuchiki since he joined the 6th team. This guy is crazy. Captain Kuchiki is equal to Captain Ichimaru. Even if Captain Ichimaru is suppressed in Shikai state, once Bankai is used, it is not certain who will get down. 717. Utada, the 5th member of the team, said in a cold voice. Because Luyun was very close to them, apart from Utada and Urushihara, the rest of the officers could clearly hear what Luyun said. Luyun 4 seats are not kidding, are they? Could it be that I have auditory hallucinations? I want to beat Captain Kuchiki to the ground. I'm afraid the 4th seat Luyun dared to say such big words because he has never seen the strength of Captain Kuchiki. No, he suppressed Captain Ichimaru in front of everyone at the freshman meeting. Maybe he really has that strength. Advertisement. In addition to the chief officer of the 6th team, even the students who were watching expressed their disbelief. After all, Byakuya Kuchiki represents perfection in their hearts. And a perfect thing will never have any flaws, just like Byakuya Kuchiki will never fail. For a while, the atmosphere became dignified and awkward. The reason is that the quiet and peaceful academy became hot because of the confrontation between Byakuya Kuchiki and Luyun. After all, one of them is the head of the Kuchiki nobles and the current captain of the 6th team, and has always had a very high reputation and status in the Soul Society. And the other one is in the limelight recently, and has been hailed as the most outstanding talent in the history of Soul Society. The duel between the two is comparable to a blockbuster drama. However, everyone is not clear. Luyun didn't just talk, he really wanted to beat Byakuya Kuchiki to the ground and drive him out of Mao's gate so that he wouldn't come near Rukia. On the other side, after clearly hearing what Luyun said, even Byakuya Kuchiki, who was always as cold as ice, showed a sneer indifferently at this moment. Although in his heart he thought that Luyun was just talking big, he didn't want to pay attention to him. But the arrogance in his heart made him couldn't help but say, you said you want to beat me to the ground. At this moment, Byakuya Kuchiki couldn't help shaking his head coldly, and cast a cold gaze towards Luyun. From the day he was born, the noble blood flowing in his body did not allow him to bow his head. Even though he had witnessed the fight between Luyun and Ichimaru Jin, the arrogance in his heart still kept Byakuya Kuchiki aloof. What are you so proud of? With your strength, do you think you can surpass me? Who gave you this confidence? In front of everyone, Byakuya Kuchiki said loudly. Since you don't realize the gap between us, then I'll let you witness it with your own eyes. The moment Byakuya Kuchiki's voice fell, his figure disappeared instantly. Advertisement. He didn't even raise his hand, but a bright stream of light appeared in the midair, which was the visual effect caused by Zanpakuto's rapid passing through the midair. Brush. When Byakuya Kuchiki reappeared, he had already appeared behind Luyun's body, and that stream-like slash came as expected. At this time, Byakuya Kuchiki was expressionless and indifferent, and was not disturbed by Luyun's words. Although due to his age and experience, his strength is not as good as Kyoraku Shunsui, Jashiro Yukitaki and other 100-year captains, but in terms of Shunpo, Byakuya Kuchiki has absolute confidence. Decades ago, Shihuin and Kuchiki, both of the four nobles, had a close relationship. In his youth, Byakuya Kuchiki was personally taught by Shihuin Yoruichi, so he has a very high talent and accomplishment in Shunpo. You must know that Shihuin Yoruichi was carrying the title of Snapshot at that time, and her speed was almost above the entire Soul Society. It can be seen how difficult it is to be taught by her personally. Point 0. After many years, Byakuya Kuchiki's Shunpo is even more proficient, so he has absolute confidence that he can crush Luyun with Shunpo. At this time, all eyes were on Luyun. No matter how powerful his Reiatsu is, he will always suffer when faced with incomprehensible speed. Yeah, there are definitely only a handful of people in the entire Soul Society who can surpass Captain Kuchiki on Shunpo. I think Luyun's fourth place is really careless. After seeing the streamer flashing in midair, the chief officers of the number 6 team gave Luyun a pitiful look. From their point of view, Luyun had already been defeated. Advertisement. However, in the next second, 10 scenes that shocked everyone appeared. When the streamer flashed across the air, Luyun, who should have been injured, was unscathed, while Byakuya Kuchiki, who had the upper hand, suddenly had a bloodstain on his arm. Prick. A tear was torn on the black Shiba suit, and through this gap, one could clearly see a wound on Byakuya Kuchiki's arm, from which thick blood continued to ooze. This strange scene immediately caused an uproar in the audience. 5.0 How is this possible? Could it be that I misunderstood it? Captain Kuchiki was the first to launch the slash, why was he the one who was injured? I clearly didn't see Luyun 6E making any movements, not even moving his feet. What's going on here? What the hell? Captain Kuchiki is injured. Everyone exclaimed in disbelief, unable to comprehend the scene in front of them at all. Not only them, but even Byakuya Kuchiki's expression changed instantly, and the usually indifferent eyes finally showed a strong shock. Only he knows that it's not that Luyun hasn't moved, but has already moved. At this time Luyun turned around, looked at Captain Kuchiki and said naturally, the legendary leader of Kuchiki seems to be very weak. Advertisement. Chapter 97 Scatter, Senbon Sakura. 1/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The head of Kuchiki seems to be very weak. Luyun turned around and said calmly and naturally. When they heard his words, the hearts of those who hadn't recovered from their confusion suddenly sank, especially the faces of the officers of the 6th Division were even more gloomy. Now that Luyun has said so, it means that Byakuya Kuchiki is indeed injured. Obviously it was Byakuya Kuchiki who launched the attack, while Luyun was unscathed, but he was the one who was injured. Isn't this too weird? How did Luyun do it? Obviously Captain Kuchiki has the upper hand, why is he the one who got injured? Am I hallucinating? Oh my god, it seems that I didn't sleep well yesterday, I must be delusional. Everyone is dumbfounded. Even if intuition and senses can deceive people, vision does not. But from the beginning to the end, they didn't see any movement of Luyun, and they didn't even dodge the oncoming slash. What the hell is going on with all this? All the onlookers were going crazy, they couldn't imagine how Luyun did all this, they could only focus on Luyun and Byakuya Kuchiki in desperation. Advertisement. This speed. Byakuya Kuchiki didn't pay attention to the amazement around him. At this moment, he could no longer keep his eyes indifferent, and his face gradually became serious. Maybe others didn't see it, but he clearly sensed everything at that moment just now. It's not that Luyun didn't exist, but he had already moved. Because Luyun's moving speed is so fast that before they can react visually, Luyun has already completed the whole process of pulling out Zanpakuto and stabbing Byakuya Kuchiki. This heaven-defying speed makes him look as if never moved in place. It's just a random step, but it's faster than my Shunpo. Byakuya Kuchiki's pupils shrank suddenly. Although he was unwilling or even repulsed, he had to admit this cruel fact. That's right, Luyun took a random step, but his speed surpassed Shunpo's. Luyun, you are strong. Byakuya Kuchiki finally let go of his haughty attitude and acknowledged Luyun's strength. And through this short fight, his cognition of strength is also one step closer in his heart. In the past, his understanding of the flow was limited to the few battles he fought against the various chiefs and Ichimaru Jin. Therefore, although Luyun is very strong, he is not strong enough to make Byakuya Kuchiki afraid or even succumb. But after this confrontation, everything changed. As long as someone observes carefully, you can feel the deep fear in Byakuya Kuchiki's eyes. At this moment, Kuchiki-bai finally understood why Captain Yamamoto and Kyoraku Shunsui had reminded him, "Don't provoke Luyun easily, he is stronger than you can imagine." At that time, Byakuya Kuchiki thought that this sentence was just nonsense. How could a mere rookie be so strong? It is a pity that he was assigned because of contempt. Advertisement. It's rumored that Kuchiki, the head of the Soul Society on Shunpo, is nothing more than that. I can't take it seriously at all. Luyun said seriously and disappointed. He didn't just say it casually, but thought so from the bottom of his heart. After all, half a day ago, he had fought to the death with Saitama-sensei in the soul space of Zanpakuto. Compared with that level of fighting, the fight with Byakuya Kuchiki made Luyun feel very boring, and he couldn't arouse the energy of fighting at all. Does it make you not serious at all? Byakuya Kuchiki smiled angrily, his haughty heart was stimulated. Without too many words, Byakuya Kuchiki disappeared again after a disagreement. Perhaps because of being irritated, this time Byakuya Kuchiki showed no mercy and tried his best to cast Shunpo, so his speed was several times faster than before. FJ. Accompanied by the sound of breaking wind, the figure of Byakuya Kuchiki appeared behind Luyun in an instant. He swung Zanpakuto suddenly and stabbed Luyun in the back. I've said it all, your speed is really slow, Kuchiki is the master. Luyun still raised his head in disappointment, and then under the shocking eyes of everyone, Luyun turned around calmly, so he didn't worry slowly pull out the Zanpakuto. The collision between the blades immediately triggered a strong wind, and the berserk Reiatsu continued to spread around the two of them like ripples. Wow. Byakuya Kuchiki's body was impacted by the Reiatsu storm, and he suddenly backed up and landed in embarrassment. Advertisement. The seemingly even match ended in the defeat of Byakuya Kuchiki. Just relying on Shunpo and chopping is not enough, Kuchiki is the master. Your strength doesn't seem to match your reputation. In fact, Luyun didn't mean any sarcasm, it was just his inner instinct. Kuchiki white without Shikai is too weak for him. Luyun said calmly and earnestly, if there are only these two methods, then I will still say that 380 please stay away from Rukia. Luyun's expression gradually became serious. No matter what purpose Byakuya Kuchiki had, he didn't want Rukia to suffer any harm. Since being confessed that day, Ryumi has regarded Rukia as the third most important person in his life. Except for Byakuya Kuchiki himself, including the chief officer of the 6th Division, even the onlookers all had the same expressions. They opened their mouths desperately, with a frightened expression. I thought it would be a well-matched duel, but I didn't expect Luyun to occupy an overwhelming advantage. Byakuya Kuchiki was out of breath with a dignified expression, while Luyun was calm and composed, as if he didn't take this battle to heart. Such a huge contrast stunned everyone. Luyun's fourth seat is really too strong. Everyone gasped involuntarily, and this idea popped up in their minds at the same time. Are you saying that I couldn't make you serious from the beginning to the end? It's ridiculous. Byakuya Kuchiki took a deep breath, held up Zanpakuto, and said in a cold and ruthless voice, that's because you haven't seen my full strength, how dare you say such big words. His eyes were blazing. Reiatsu burst out inside his body, and he held Zanpakuto, Senran Shihi, with both hands. Scatter. Senbon Sakura. Advertisement. Chapter 98. Although it is very gorgeous, it is just like that. 2/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Scatter. Senbon Sakura. As the Shikai language fell, Zanpakuto open black lens bracket Senbon Sakura close black lens bracket in the hands of Byakuya Kuchiki erupted with a dazzling light. This ray of light is not an ordinary light blue, but a soft pink. The dazzling light gradually covered the blade. Gradually, the blade continues to twist, and finally turns into countless small blades, floating around Byakuya Kuchiki like sakura flowers, beautiful and pleasing to the eye. The blade in Byakuya Kuchiki's hand completely disappeared, turning into countless tiny blades. At the same time, a majestic Reiatsu surged out, as if it was about to evolve into a flurry of sakura flowers all over the sky. The sky is full of sakura flowers, just like a fascinating scenery. But those who are familiar with Byakuya Kuchiki felt a strong crisis in their hearts when they saw this scene. They know very well that the beautiful sakura flower is actually composed of thousands of tiny blades. Once they are involved in it, they will be strangled like 1,000 pieces. Is this the ability of Zanpakuto, Senbon Sakura? It looks very gorgeous. Luyun raised his head and looked at the sakura flowers in the sky, with pink lights flashing in his eyes, and said calmly. Blooming in the midst of killing, as well as flowers in the dawn, this is Senbon Sakura's Shikai ability. As you can see, each sakura flower is a tiny blade. Byakuya Kuchiki stretched out his arm, held one of the sakura flowers in his palm, and said indifferently, if you still have enough time to prepare when facing Ichimaru Jin's Shinso, then when you are surrounded by countless blades, you have no chance of winning if you are in a hurry. The moment the voice fell, Byakuya Kuchiki didn't make any movements, but the sakura flowers floating in the sky spun rapidly as if they were spiritual, and then turned into a fierce wave, rolling towards Luyun menacingly. This is also one of the special abilities of Senbon Sakura. As long as the eyes can touch the place, the sakura flower will naturally wither, thus strangling the opponent. Advertisement. This time Byakuya Kuchiki didn't hold back. With his gaze resting on Luyun's body, all over the sky, sakura flowers rolled towards Luyun from all directions, trying to strangle him. Swipe swipe. Wherever sakura goes, the space is distorted, and the sound of breaking wind keeps ringing. Whether it was the chief officer of Division 6 or the Mao students who were watching, a strong sense of crisis arose in the heart at the moment when sakura fluttered. They backed away quickly for fear of being caught up in it. Captain Kuchiki really deserves to be a person with noble blood on his back. Shikai alone has such power. If Bankai could easily destroy this place. Yeah, how can anyone who can become the captain of Gote 13 be mediocre? Although Luyun is also very strong in the 4th seat, I don't think he can suppress the captain of Kuchiki. Yeah, after all, Captain Kuchiki is a genius, not to mention he has been famous for a long time. Although the scene that happened just now raised everyone's impression of Luyun several notches. But, after witnessing Senbon Sakura's power, they still think that Byakuya Kuchiki will. There is no other reason than the influence that Byakuya Kuchiki has established in Seoul society for a long time. The atmosphere is dignified, and there is no sound around, only the scattered sakura flowers in the sky. In the end, under everyone's attention, countless sakura flowers swept down from the air, condensed continuously, and turned into a circular barrier to completely cover Luyun's figure. Advertisement. At the same time, Byakuya Kuchiki raised his palm and shook it with cold eyes. Click. Sakura riots, scattered everywhere, tens of thousands of sakura flowers seemed to be enough to run through everything. The place where Luyun was completely collapsed and instantly turned into ruins, and his figure was also submerged in the thick fog. All of a sudden, the audience was silent, and everyone held their breath, not daring to take a breath. I'm afraid. The 4 seats of Luyun are already lying in a pool of blood. I think so. If it were me, I'm afraid I'd be killed by now. Will Captain Kuchiki be too harsh? After all, Luyun is only the 4th seat and a member of Gote 13. I'm afraid it's not good to let Captain Yamamoto know. With the character of Captain Kuchiki, he will never show mercy. The only one to blame is Luyun, who is too confident. Everyone shook their heads regretfully, and didn't hold much hope for Luyun. After all, even a powerful captain could hardly withstand the encirclement and suppression of tens of thousands of blades, not to mention that Luyun didn't know the ability of Zanpakuto open black lens bracket Senbon Sakura close black lens bracket at all. In their view, the battle is over. Time passed by every minute and every second, and the dense fog disappeared. Advertisement. An unexpected scene appeared. Luyun, who was supposed to be lying in a pool of blood, still stood majestically, even unscathed, except for a few mutilated damages on the Death Fighter costume on his body. At this moment, time seems to stand still. How is it possible? Everyone seemed to have forgotten their surprise, and even their speech became intermittent. They opened their mouths wide in surprise, their hearts were full of turmoil, and their minds went blank. Whether it is the chief officer of the 6th Division or the students of the Shenyang Academy, at this moment they finally understood why Luyun dared to threaten to beat Byakuya Kuchiki, not because of his arrogance, but because it was a matter of course. After witnessing this scene with their own eyes, no one dared to doubt the Wanghao Luyun's strength. It turns out that we are the ones who have been living in the dream. The officers of the 6th team lowered their heads speechlessly, their inner emotions complicated to the point of ultimate. Not long ago, they were openly mocking Luyun in front of everyone, but now they are being slapped in the face. Even Senbon Sakura in Shikai state couldn't hurt a single hair of Luyun, which really left them speechless. It seems that this is your post-Shikai ability, that's all. Luyun shook his head in disappointment, and said, although your Shikai is gorgeous, it can't make me serious at all. It's not even comparable to Ichimaru Jin's Shinso. Luyun's words from the heart completely angered Byakuya Kuchiki. P.S. I recommend a friend's book, Infinite Zombie System, a million-old book, very and violent, fat enough to kill. If you are interested, you can go and read it. Advertisement. Chapter 99 Bankai, Senbon Sakura Kageyoshi. 3/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Your Zanpakuto is nothing more than that, even weaker than Ichimaru Jin's Shinso. Luyun's words instantly angered Byakuya Kuchiki. My Zanpakuto is not as good as Shinso. Byakuya Kuchiki's face gradually became gloomy, and he said in a deep voice. Long ago, he was on par with Ichimaru Jin, and together they were hailed as two of the best talents in the Soul Society. The two are about the same age, equally talented, the only difference is their identity. One is the eldest son of the four great nobles, destined to have an extraordinary fate from the moment he was born. Another from one of Rukongai's worst neighborhoods, a meteoric rise with great talent. The two serve as captains at the same time, with the same position and equal shares. In the eyes of others, Byakuya Kuchiki and Ichimaru Jin are on par with each other in strength, possessing awe-inspiring strength. Even Byakuya Kuchiki himself thinks so, he doesn't think Ichimaru Jin will be better than him. It is also natural to think that Senbon Sakura and Shinso are evenly divided. However, in front of countless people, Luyun actually said that his Zanpakuto Senbon Sakura is not as good as Shinso, which completely angered Byakuya Kuchiki. From the moment of awakening Zanpakuto, Byakuya Kuchiki takes pride in Senbon Sakura and will never allow anyone to desecrate its nobility. Advertisement. Luyun just touched the mold. My Zanpakuto is not as good as Shinso. What on earth do you rely on to say such a thing? Byakuya Kuchiki said indifferently, the high cold aura exuding from him makes him as terrifying as an iceberg. At least when facing Shinso, I still feel dangerous. But no matter how many Senbon Sakura there are, their power is nothing more than that. Luyun said calmly. The reason why he was able to stand unscathed was not because he was too fast, but because Luyun didn't try to dodge at all. As early as the moment Zanpakuto turned into tens of thousands of blades, Luyun had already seen through the essence of Senbon Sakura. The so-called blades were only condensed from high-concentration Reiatsu. Since the essence of the blade is Reiatsu, what is there to be afraid of? Because Luyun has a terrifying Reiatsu in his body that is stronger than Captain Yamamoto. Furthermore, the moment when 10,000 blades stabbed him, it was actually the equivalent of Byakuya Kuchiki's Reiatsu versus his Reiatsu, and the results were obvious. In front of the overwhelming Reiatsu, no matter how many blades there are, nothing will help. As expected of a man recognized by Captain Yamamoto, he really has the capital to challenge Captain Kuchiki. Ueno Urushihara changed his opinion and said with emotion from the bottom of his heart. It's embarrassing now. With Shikai useless, the only way to defeat Luyun is to rely on Bankai. But in this way, Utada, the fifth member of the sixth team, looked around. When I saw a towering building, I couldn't help swallowing hard, unable to believe the consequences. Once Senbon Sakura Bankai, its power will be more than 10 times stronger than it is now. The blade formed at that time was enough to destroy the entire academy. On the other side, Luyun and Byakuya Kuchiki are still facing each other. Advertisement. Luyun didn't know that his words from the heart would anger Byakuya Kuchiki. He stared at Byakuya Kuchiki's face and asked calmly, is there any other way? If not, please leave. I don't care about such a fight. I can't cheer up. Luyun sighed helplessly. He had heard that Byakuya Kuchiki was a very powerful guy, but he didn't feel any pressure when they fought. Oh, it's so late. It's better to end this boring battle early. Don't waste CACB, my date with Rukia. Luyun looked up at the gradually blackening sky, curled his lips helplessly. He doesn't want to have too much trouble with Byakuya Kuchiki, but just hopes that he will stop pestering Rukia. But Byakuya Kuchiki didn't think so. He vowed to get back the stage with his always proud heart. I see, have you always been so arrogant? Byakuya Kuchiki's face was cold and he was anxious. No matter what Lu Wei said, it sounded so harsh to him. Arrogance. I'm just telling the truth. Luyun shrugged, expressing his innocence. Senbon Sakura did make him feel weak, it was just the truth. It seems that only violence can completely wash away your inner arrogance from the inside out. Byakuya Kuchiki thought it through thoroughly, and only by knocking down Luyun completely can the inner anger be calmed down. Otherwise, he will only get angrier. It's not exciting to fight you. Don't waste my time with such a boring fight, I'm in a hurry to date Rukia. Your Zanpakuto is not even as good as Ichimaru Jin's Shinso. Kuchiki's master is nothing more than that. Every word Luyun said hit Byakuya Kuchiki's heart like a heavy hammer, making him so angry that his blood, cells, and even his soul became extremely irritable. Advertisement. Invisibly, Byakuya Kuchiki even felt shame. As the leader of Kuchiki, when has he been so underestimated? What's more, Luyun is just a newcomer who just joined Gote 13. Why should a newcomer speak wild words in front of him? This bad breath is unbearable. When the anger in the heart accumulates to a certain level, no matter how calm Byakuya Kuchiki's mind is, he can't suppress the outburst of anger after all. Impulse finally overcomes reason. Byakuya Kuchiki held Zanpakuto with his backhand, and said in a deep voice, I think the reason why you utter wild words here today is because you failed to see the power of Bankai when you fought Ichimaru Jin last time. Quote. So, are you going to use Bankai to deal with me? Hearing the word, Bankai, Luyun finally showed a hint of interest. If we can play against Bankai, it might be something worth looking forward to. You should be proud to force me to use Bankai. Byakuya Kuchiki held Zanpakuto with his backhand, the Reiatsu inside him rioted, and the surface of Zanpakuto burst into an extremely dazzling light. At this moment, even the air boiled. Bankai, Senbon Sakura Kageyoshi. Advertisement. Chapter 100 Invincible. 4/6. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Bankai, Senbon Sakura Kageyoshi. With the utterance of liberation, the Zanpakuto in Byakuya Kuchiki's hand burst into a blazing light. The spiritual power sealed in Zanpakuto surged out unreservedly, sweeping all directions like an abyssal tsunami. Because the spiritual power was too thick, it actually condensed into substance, converging into a sea of spiritual power visible to the naked eye. A torrential rain formed by the gathering of spiritual power fell in the sky, and the terrifying spiritual power turned into countless raindrops and sprinkled on the ground. In an instant, everyone had difficulty breathing and felt an indescribable coercion. Except for a few 6th-ranked team chiefs, the other onlookers kept panting, feeling a sense of suffocation. Because the distance between each other is so close that they don't even have the courage to look up at the ocean of spiritual power. Because they can't move at all, being suppressed by strong Reiatsu. Is this the power behind Bankai? Compared with Shikai, it is completely different. No wonder he is so confident. Luyun's eyes flickered, and a serious expression finally appeared on his originally calm face. The Reiatsu oppression brought on after Senbon Sakura Bankai finally got him serious. Look out, Luyun. This is the true power of Senbon Sakura. As Byakuya Kuchiki's voice fell, the ocean of spiritual power hovering in midair instantly disappeared, replaced by an ocean of sakura flowers that shone countless times brighter than before. The color of the sky changed, and the sakura flowers circled around, as if the entire space was occupied by sakura flowers. Advertisement. The first stage of his Zanpakuto Bankai is still Reiatsu's transformed sakura flower blade, although on the surface there is almost no difference. But it is far stronger than Shikai in terms of scale and power. In fact, Senbon Sakura's Shikai is only the blade part of the blade into a thin blade, while Bankai is a Zanpakuto including the blade, guard, and handle, all of which are reduced to a thin blade. The two are not the same level of offensive. Oh my god, is this Senbon Sakura's Bankai? It's so strong. I'm afraid that the huge ocean of sakura flowers can flood the entire academy in an instant, right? As expected of the real power of Zanpakuto, just this aura makes me want to surrender. Look, even though Captain Kuchiki has Bankai, the 4th seat Luyun still doesn't change his face, and he doesn't even use Shikai. What kind of confidence does he have? Did you forget? He doesn't know Shikai. All eyes were once again on Byakuya Kuchiki and Luyun. Feeling the power of Senbon Sakura Bankai head on, many people panicked and trembled. For a while, except for the chief officer of the 6th Division, everyone stayed away from this area for fear of being involved. After Bankai, Byakuya Kuchiki was imposing, with a confident smile on his handsome face, adding a bit of elegance to this perfect face. Indifferent eyes, elegant temperament, and powerful breath, Byakuya Kuchiki after Bankai seems to have the certainty of victory. Why, after seeing my Bankai, do you regret it? Byakuya Kuchiki looked at Luyun and said coldly. He saw a hesitant expression on Luyun's face, so he mistook Luyun for being afraid. Advertisement. Actually, not so. Luyun's next answer angered Byakuya Kuchiki again. Is this your Bankai? Although its power and scale are 10 times stronger than Shikai's, it is still very weak. This level is not enough to make me serious. Luyun sighed helplessly, expressing deep regret. He thought that Senbon Sakura Bankai would bring him unexpected surprises and even force him to be serious. However, are you still uttering wild words? I really don't know whether to say you are stupid or naive. Perhaps because he is used to Luyun's character, Byakuya Kuchiki did not get angry this time. He took a deep breath, and then said in a deep voice with cold eyes, even in the face of Bankai, are you still unwilling to use Shikai? As early as when Luyun awakened Zanpakuto, Byakuya Kuchiki had sensed that huge Reiatsu. Shikai. Luyun frowned, as if thinking carefully. Not long after, he shook his head and said seriously, I want to deal with your Bankai, and I don't really need a Shikai. I only need one knife to resolve an offensive of this level. Ask for flowers. Ha 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 ha. This time, Byakuya Kuchiki couldn't control his emotions anymore, and laughed wildly. Can you dissolve my Bankai with a single knife? Where did you get your confidence? Or, you don't understand what power is. Quote. In the end, Byakuya Kuchiki's inner anger had reached ultimate. He no longer had the patience to talk to Luyun, and the only thought in his mind was to cut Luyun into pieces to vent his hatred. Obviously the truth. Why go crazy? Luyun shrugged, expressing his innocence. He didn't intend to provoke Byakuya Kuchiki, but because he really only needed to swing a knife casually to end the fight. Well, let's stop this funny farce. Advertisement. Byakuya Kuchiki fixed his eyes, raised his palm and shook Luyun's body suddenly. In an instant, the ocean of stick flowers hovering in midair moved rapidly like a riot. The momentum is huge and the momentum is like a rainbow. Under the control of Byakuya Kuchiki, the ocean of sakura flowers turned into majestic waves and rolled towards Luyun layer by layer, making people desperate like black clouds overwhelming the city. If it were someone else, they would definitely die in the face of this attack. Unfortunately, Luyun is different. Oh, I can't help it. If I don't get serious, I'm afraid my clothes will be smashed. Surprisingly, even at this time, what Luyun cared about was not the safety of his life, but the death costume he was wearing. Then, I have to be serious. This time, it was Luyun's turn to look serious. He stepped out, the imposing barrier climbed up, and Reiatsu surged, as if piercing through the clouds. Brush. The veins on Luyun's arm were throbbing, he tightly grasped the handle of the sealed state knife with both hands, and slashed down in the air. Immediately, a slash containing terrifying power surged out along the tip of the knife, colliding with the thin ocean of sakura flowers. Invincible. Advertisement.